Nation. We're back.
We're back. Hey, Megan.
We are back. How you doing, Rocky?
Good. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan. And y'all, we are Fire the Cannon. We appreciate you being here. We've got an extra special edition of Fire the Cannon. You'll get that cannon blast down one of these days.
But yeah, I don't know why. I either
we have an
forget
extra special
or we play it on loop. Anyway, it's always going to be fun when the boom goes off. Hey, welcome back to the episode of Fire the Cannon.
I love it. All right. Well, you guys, we have an extra special edition of Fire the Cannon this week. Of course, it is OU Hate Week. We are here, going to bring back that golden hat. Beat OU as always. We've got a lot of really fun guests today. So very excited. We've got our friend Chuck Smith, who was a former Texas Cowboy, lifetime Longhorn fan, who has some wonderful stories, some really cool behind the scenes stuff to chat with us about. As you can see, I'm out at the property right now where the Longhorn's at that belongs to Chuck. So we'll have some fun stories, some fun details to share with him. Of course, later on in the show, we are going to have our friend Quan Cosby and Rod BABERS join us, which is just absolutely crazy. Big star-studded lineup today. So Rocky, what do we got on the plate? What are we going to be talking about?
Well, so first we have to say that we love Rod BABERS and Quan Cosby so much, like all Longhorns do. But when we started this passion project a few years ago, they were our day ones, right? Quan and Rod joined us several times for episodes over the years and have just been really great supporters of what we do and good friends and great people and good people. So it's wonderful when you have such amazing Longhorns who represent the university so well, even years after, being on the field, how they represent the program. And of course, they have had massive moments, not just on the Longhorn football stage, but specifically in this game, right? This Red River Shootout. In this big game, the Texas OU hate is real. They've been in the tunnel, coming out. So they're going to tell us about it. We have lots of fun things to talk about with them to get their insight as players, and that's always fun. So if you have questions that you want to share, ask Rod and Quan, and when they join us later in the show. First Quan, and then Rod will jump in as soon as he's available. So that's pretty cool. But we'll start our conversation today, me and you, Megan, with our thoughts on the Cotton Bowl, like a little bit of a preview, atmosphere, player availability. It's kind of fun to see Texas is still the only undefeated SEC team. We've only had one SEC game, but we're undefeated overall, the only undefeated SEC team. But yeah, so then we'll talk college football picks, right? Craziness, how it resulted. We have our college football picks, a little NFL, and then our friends are joining us to talk more Hate OU.
I love it. Yeah, listen, I was dying at the SEC shorts this week that came out, of course, after the Vanderbilt beat number 1 Alabama to put Texas back in the number 1 spot. But there was a clip inside of their short this week that with Texas coming in to kind of that shit show, carrying the pizza, right? That throwback to community. And he goes, man, I'm so tired of carrying this conference. I love it. Texas being here.
After just a few weeks.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. All right. Well, yeah, let's jump in. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about. If you guys, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube. If you search Fire the Cannon Podcast, all one word, we're a little easier to find on YouTube that way. Of course, on Twitter and on Instagram, we are at Fire the Cannon and the number 1. We appreciate y'all being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe and set those notifications because we have a lot of fun things to talk about. So recapping a little bit, Rocky, we talked a little bit earlier on Monday about our hatred for OU and how this can pan out. Let's just talk about the history for a little bit. Right. How unique this atmosphere is, how crazy it is in the Cotton Bowl. Of course, with Texas joining the SEC, it has been a hotly debated topic of is this the best rivalry in the SEC? I would argue yes. I would argue this is one of the best rivalries in all of college sports, period, because of the uniqueness of it. What are your thoughts, Rocky? What do you think?
College football, all of sports. I mean, I would say absolutely it is in the Mount Rushmore of college football rivalries. This atmosphere, this game, up there with the Army, Navy, up there with the Iron Bowl, up there with, Michigan, Notre Dame. I mean, there's just these huge rivalries that happen every year that as much watch TV anytime we say throughout the record books, all the old cliches or whatever, the underdog is always covering the spread, those kind of things, or gets the upset. Those things happen in these kind of rivalries more often because the hatred, because they spend not just the last week or bye week preparing for this game. They spent the last 360-ish days preparing for this game, right? It's all off season. They're working on drills. They have teams of analysts analyzing every game of, as the season goes. So it's a pretty unique atmosphere. And I know we've talked about this many times. As a fan watching on TV, love it, love it, love it. I do not want to be at that stadium. I do not want to be at that fair. I don't go. Y'all should be glad I don't go because I'm bad luck when I do. So I stay home for everyone's benefit. But you love it. We talked about this, Megan. Give us your thoughts on the atmosphere, and then we'll show that. We talked about this the other day. Texas football released that video of coming through from the booze to the way it's split in half. You're there every year. What to tell us?
Yeah, look, I've got to say, and I want to point out a quick stat that our friend Kyle Umlang put out just recently. So this is the 44th Red River Shootout to feature a ranked Oklahoma and a ranked Texas. So that's more than the Iron Bowl, the Egg Bowl, and the Lone Star Showdown combined. That stat right there alone tells me, yes, this is the best rivalry in the SEC.
Because it's always usually two good teams. More often than not. More often than other rivalries, right?
Absolutely. And, we've had some people bring up the Georgia-Florida. Have you seen how they split the stadium there? It's really odd. They split it down the separate halves.
More like a bowl game split.
Yeah. So we're split. The Texas OU game is always split on the 50, right? Half the stadium in crimson, half of it in burnt orange. The way that Georgia-Florida splits it is down the center line of the field.
So you always have some love wherever you are in the field.
Right.
That's very different.
Yeah, to me, that really changes the dynamic. One of the things, and we'll see this in just a second in this clip, one of the things that's so unique with that stadium split being 50, on the 50-yard line is half of the game you are at a hated away game, right? It is a hostile environment that is hard to play in. And half the game you get your hometown love. So it's really unique in that sense. And I don't know that I can pick out another rivalry that does that so uniquely. And then, for me, you throw on top of it the pageantry of the largest fair in the world, the largest state fair in the world with the State Fair of Texas. You got Big Tex out there. You got your Wax Cup and your corny dogs. And it's just, you can watch, the show animals. I like going and checking out the animals. I like watching the cattle dogs work. I like seeing the butter sculpture and then eating my body weight in fried food and then feeling my arteries actually slowing down. Worth it. Absolutely worth it. But yeah, it is definitely a crazy atmosphere and one that you should experience if you have the opportunity. Let's bring up that.
Lawson agrees with you. It's the split that makes it great, but also the fairgrounds that make it amazing. Best college atmosphere, according to Lawson. Jonathan says it's a nightmare to get to your seat as a blind person. I can't even imagine. It's a nightmare all around to me. So I can even imagine needing more time, that it would be crazy to get to. All right, let's show. So this is the video that Texas football released showing. I think this is the latest one they did with Quinn Ewers going from the hate to the love. Let's go. If that doesn't make you run through a wall, that gives me chills. It does. That just gives me chills.
And again, shout out to Texas social media for capturing that moment and truly seeing that experience through where you feel the hate and then you feel the love right after it. I'm hyped. I'm over here clapping along, singing. I swear to God, I would, if there was ever a serial killer in my house and I was hiding and they were looking for me, all they'd have to do is sing Texas Fight and I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I'd be like a trained seal. I'd be clapping along and give my position away. I'd be dead. So
yeah, that is very, very much a unique environment to this game. The fair too adds to what some people consider the greatness of this game. It's also another reason I don't go to this game. I know I'm the worst. Everybody's like, you're not a real college fan if you don't go. And I'm like, I'm all right.
You've been though. You have been.
I've been. I just choose to watch this game. Actually, this Saturday I will be watching it at ACL with 70,000 of my closest friends. We will be watching it because at ACL they have the big tent set up, sports bar area, and huge tent with massive screens and TVs. And I always go to ACL and Texas OU weekend, and I usually. Sometimes, depending on the time of the game, this time it's not till 2:30. So I'll watch the whole game at ACL, but usually watch the first half at home, then go over to the ACL and watch the second half. So you're just living or dying with the other thousands of people under the tent. I guess true. It's not the same as being in the stadium, but I'm way happier being 5 minutes from home.
That's
Rocky isn't coming. Nope.
Hey, Ghost, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Yeah, look. I have tried to get her to come more. I've tried to get her to come out. It is just not her jams being in with all the people. Like I get it. That's fine. It's not for everybody. That's okay. She is definitely in the minority. I think that is fair to say with this particular game. I will be there loud and proud and obnoxious, and I will be at the fairgrounds. So a note for folks traveling up to the game: the fairgrounds do open early. I think parking opens up around 7:00. Fairgrounds are open around that time. And then they start opening exhibitions around 8:00. So you can get there early. And I would highly recommend that. If you get there early, you can check some stuff out before the crazy crowds get there, especially with the slightly later kickoff this year. You'll have a little bit of more time in the morning to experience the fair for sure. So it'll be a good time for sure. But let's talk about this a little bit. Recently, OU has had the upper hand in this rivalry.
Big time.
Yeah, over the past 5 years, Texas has only won once. Now, listen, it was a phenomenal win. It was the 49-0 with Quinn Ewers coming off of an injury, a young Quinn Ewers obviously coming off of an injury, playing his mind just absolutely lights out on every level. So there's definitely a lot of hope for Texas fans here. But tables have turned. Let's talk about some of these lopsided scores we've seen in the history of this. Yeah. So we know that, again, that 49-0 was a crazy lopsided score. Again, we're looking at this, I mean, all the way back to 1987. There was a 35-point difference, 86, 35-point difference, 2011, 38, 39, 42, 45, 49, 49, 50, and 52-point difference. So sometimes this rivalry can be out of control, crazy lopsided, like we saw a couple years ago from Texas. But more often than not, this turns into what we still call it, an absolute shootout. Rocky, what are you expecting this year from this Texas OU game? Is it going to be a close one? Is it going to be a shootout? Is it going to be lopsided?
I don't want to give too much away of my prediction yet, but horns up.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I'll give my prediction in a bit, but the atmosphere. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, this is a very hot game as far as, well, one, the temperature is going to be in the 90s, but also the ticket prices. This is apparently the most expensive ticket of ever a Red River rivalry, Red River Shootout game. This is the most expensive the tickets have been. So people want to be in this stadium. I don't know how much of that is Sooner fans selling their tickets because the spread is 14.5 and making some money off the Longhorns, but what do you think?
Yeah, I will say, I know on the Sooner side right now, I like to look at these kind of things. Maybe it's petty, maybe it means nothing, but on the Sooner side of things, the tickets are definitely cheaper than they are on the Texas side of things. And I love doing that when Texas travels and isn't playing at home. I like to see the price differences throughout. Just it kind of gives you a feeling, a vibe of how the fan base is feeling, how they're thinking about their team. I got to say right now, it seems OU fans have been quieter this year than in some years past. Now we'll dive into that.
Mistake. If this game goes their way, they will all come calling.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Lawson, thank you for that. So the get-in price is $200 cheaper on the Sooner side than it is on the Texas side. So
wow.
Look, Texas fans, if you want to save a few bucks, you can sit amongst the crimson and cream, right? Save yourself a little money, but
I'd rather pay extra.
Excuse me. Yeah, you tell me if you think that's worth it. That can get a little dicey over there. I've sat on that 50. Yeah, I've sat on that 50-yard line divide there before, and it can get dicey. It can get a little questionable. Sometimes it's a great experience. Other times it's a not so great experience. That's for sure. So again, we know that the media talked to the players a little bit earlier here and talked about, the atmosphere of this game, what they're expecting. Rocky, who are you excited to see with this media availability with the guys?
Oh, we'll start because we were just talking about the atmosphere and being divided in half. They asked Helm about it, Gunnar Helm tied in, and this is what he said about the surprise of this environment.
What do you remember your first impressions were when you get to the fair and you're like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah, I remember obviously the buses coming in and how many OU fans you see just because it's their side of the stadium, and obviously walking out for warm-ups and feeling like you're in the one of the most hostile environments in college football, then getting to the other side of the field and feeling like you're at home, and then the game starts and one side of the field is quiet and the other side of the field you can't hear yourself think. So, getting backed up and coming out of the OU side on a drive, it's tough to hear, but I think the biggest thing for this game is just going in there with the togetherness on our team and trusting each other and eliminating the pre-snap penalties, and we'll be all right.
Gunnar, you
the pre-snap penalties. Oh, please.
Look, and this is going to be a challenge. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a challenge for Texas that we've seen. That's something we talked about on previous shows. We want to see them clean up those silly mistakes, clean up the self-harming penalties. Texas had an unusual amount of penalties at home. Again, that was a home game against Mississippi State. I believe it ended up being, what was it, Rocky? I think 8 penalties, something like that, for 75 yards. I mean, it was a lot of penalties.
It felt like a million.
Yeah, it did. And there were a few sets that they were really detrimental to Texas. They took some points off the board, brought things back. Luckily, Texas was able to recover, obviously, and pull away in that game. But in a game like this, against the Sooners, against your heated rival, you're not going to be able to make those mistakes. You're not going to be able to make those errors. It's going to be a problem if that happens. So, yeah, that's definitely something to look into. Let's talk while we're on the topic of perhaps cleaning up a few mistakes. We had some comments from Blue. Rocky, do you have that video to pull up?
Yeah. So Jaden Blue was asked about the fumbles, right? Because that was a huge last week. The last time they played against Mississippi State, Jaden Blue had just come off his best game ever, right? Four rushing touchdowns. Like, it was amazing. He had this really amazing performance, and the very next week was probably his worst performance, and most notably being the 2 lost fumbles, and not finishing the game, right? So they asked him, of course, he was asked about it. And we gave him huge props for going in front of the media, not just immediately after the game, going and being accountable, but also he was there this week and he was asked about it. And this is what he had to say.
It means a lot to me.
Jaden, what was the week of practice like, just coming off of 2 fumbles? You seemed like you really wanted to get things fixed going into the bye week.
Yeah, that was a big emphasis was, to make sure that I get those things fixed going into, the next few games. I know, in order to be as successful I want to, I have to hold on to the ball. So, it's just, me working on a lot of things mentally and making sure that, I'm carrying the ball the right way.
Did Shard make you carry the ball around campus? What was his method?
I mean, naturally, when you're a back and you fumble twice in a game, that's your instinct to carry the ball around that week. So, but I did a pretty good job of holding on to it today, and I made sure it's a big emphasis for me.
taking in the game.
All right, I believe Blue is going to ball out on Saturday. He's got to have pride. There's a running back, legacy now in this at UT that he really takes personally and passionately. I feel like he understands the responsibility in that running back room and the standard that they're held to, right? And I just feel like he can't wait to get back, right? Get back in there.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think he's, again, one of the things that is great about this Texas team, we were talking about that experience and how that can affect the outcome of this game. Texas is a seasoned football program right now. And even though we're hurting a little bit in that running back room, we still have a lot of experience. This isn't Blue's first rodeo, right? It's not his first shootout. He knows what to expect. He's been in the environment before. And again, as a senior leader on this team with that experience, I think it is going to be important to him to show up and prove that, these past couple of games where he's had some mental mistakes, had some turnovers, isn't the norm. I think he's really in that mode to show, look, this is not how this is going to be. He's got this improved. I agree with you, Rocky. I think he's going to be a man on fire. I think he's got a lot to prove, and he's going to make a statement on that football field. I definitely agree with that.
I love it. One of the other areas that's really improved. So we've talked about this earlier in the season and leading up to the season. Sark talks about you get what you emphasize, right? Last year, the biggest question marks for Texas that we like, I hope they're emphasizing this all off season, was red zone offense. And now they're one of the best in the country, if not the best, depending on what metric you go by. And DB play, right? The DBs, they were eaten alive last year in the passing game. And then this year, they are the best DBs secondary in the SEC, right? Yeah. So to go from struggle bus on both of those big time, because the red zone offense cost them the OU game, right? The 4th and goal and just couldn't get it in. And then the DBs, the play in the DBs cost them the game, right? So that was just one game that went away from those glaring issues that were all season long. Yeah. So Michael Taff, my favorite player, Michael Taff, he was asked about that, about what it is to see, like how is he feeling about the team right now? And then he was asked about how are the DBs playing so well, like the improvement. And this is what he had to say.
Our best is yet to come. We haven't even hit the potential, and that's the scary part about this team. We're not even at our best yet.
Michael, what do you think is the biggest area of growth for the DBs? Like, what are y'all doing particularly well this year, better than you were last year?
We're all on the same page. I think that every year we've had athletes. Every year we've had really good guys that can play the game of football, but we're all on the same page. You don't see too often in the last 5 games somebody just running scot-free. And so that's, if you line up and you play the game and you make it hard on the offense every single down after down after down, and you make them earn it, then hats off to them if they win a couple reps. That they're on scholarship too. But at the end of the day, when we're all on the same page, we're a pretty good defensive back.
Why is that communication better?
They're really good this year. And he's right. You don't see just like last year, multiple blown coverages. There were so many times where they looked at each other like, where were you? What was that? Who had what? Right? There wasn't the communication there is now. So you take, bringing in like Makuba, and then another year with even though Derek Williams has been injured part of the year, but Muhammad and of course Jade Barron's experience coming back, and that you put all that together, and wow, like it wasn't fire PK. People were literally saying fire PK last year over the secondary, but just needed for them to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how to communicate it to each other. What a massive improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I really loved, of course, we know that OU made those shirts after the Texas game last year. It was Danny Stussman, I believe, that made the shirts that said something stupid like, was Oklahoma only fears God, like Texas fears Oklahoma. And
something like that. Every player was asked about it this week too.
Yeah. And I loved Taft's response. Mookie just looked deadpan into the camera and said, I remember everything.
Oh, I have it here. Watch.
Yeah. It's a new season. We got a whole new team. I'm not too focused about what they did last year, about what we did last year, but I do remember everything.
I do remember everything. every player was asked about it, and the ones that were Sorrell, Majors, Taff, Barron, they were all asked about it at some point during their availabilities this week, and they had pretty varying answers. Like he's like, I'm not worried about it. It's a different team. And Major said, well, I'm a man of faith, and something like that. Like you can tell me I don't fear God. It was, you could tell like he was being very respectful. Like somebody else was like, no comment. And then I think it was, I forgot, maybe Sorrell that said, that's funny. Good for them. I'm not worried about it.
Right. Well, speaking of remembering everything, I do want to bring in a good friend of ours, a good friend of the show, obviously, who, and I hope he remembers a lot of things because we're going to talk about some experience, some Texas OU experience. This is our good friend, Chuck Smith, coming on in. And we've
Hey,
got,
Chuck, welcome.
yeah, I think,
Hey guys, it's 3:25 and
OU
Oh,
still,
you still suck.
we're going to.
So today we have wonderful guests. We have our friend Chuck Smith, and he's going to tell us about his time. You were with which group with
Texas Cowboys.
yeah, I was a
Oh, you were a cowboy, a Texas cowboy.
Yeah,
Nice.
I wanted to say thank you for having me on your show, and
Yeah,
thank
of
you for
course.
doing the show at the ranch, the Rock and Diamond S. This is actually 50th anniversary of my first one I went to.
That's amazing.
And
Wow.
somehow talked to our parents into allowing us to drive up, and didn't even know where Dallas was. We got there, and luckily my brother hooked me up with some tickets, and so I'm kind of got a little bit of both you guys.
Yeah.
I went 30 years in a row.
Yeah.
I didn't miss one, and now I'm kind of like Rocky. I'm kind of staying away. Just kind of,
Been there, done that.
and my son and my daughter, Kate and Sterling, and then Chelsea go to the game this weekend.
That's well, I'm sure they're going to have a great time. So I did want to ask you, what is it like? So you fired the cannon frequently.
Wait, show those beer cans again, because I don't think we could really appreciate them. There we go. Oklahoma sucks.
Oh, you still And I actually kind of remember when they started doing that.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, people started to do that. What time is it? And we would go into restaurants and scream, it's,
Yeah.
7:34.
I know you still sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories was the Cowboys shoot the cannon. And one game, it was actually malfunctioning. The cannon was stopped working, and we were trying to shoot it and couldn't. And OU had a middle linebacker. I think his name was George Cumbie. This is around 79. And he was an All-American stud, and we were working him really. We were running up his tail.
Yeah.
And right when he was coming off the field, a buddy of mine grabs a screwdriver and a hammer to shoot the cannon. I mean, almost blew his hand off, but it went off right in Cumbie's face, and Cumbie didn't appreciate it. The guy
He
that
lost his hearing or his arm.
I imagine Cumbie has a slightly different recollection of that particular cannon.
Yelling
firing.
at him and screaming, shooting the cannon in his face. But back in those days, everybody used to go downtown. They didn't go to the West End. They went downtown, and they would block off the street. So it would go it was a one-way on each side.
Yep.
So you had to walk down one side. You couldn't. And, there was a lot of people fighting and things would happen. But yeah, it was super fun.
So what do you think is your wildest memory? Let's start with OU. I mean, I imagine your friend almost blowing his hand off just to
that
fire
was one
the
of the
cannon.
wildest ones.
Pretty
That
up
really
there.
was. But I think the first one I went to, I saw a couple walking in, and a guy and a girl, and the two women from the Texas and the OU woman got into a fight, and then the men started fighting, and they were all fighting right there, and I was 16 going,
What is happening?
People take this seriously.
I will say that about this rivalry. I don't know what it is recently, but I feel like there has been a higher level of respect between the two teams and even between the two fan bases here recently.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel like I do, because I mean, years ago, I'd say probably 10, 15 years ago, 10 for sure. When I'm driving Clyde into the first few years that I had Clyde, that's my 79 Ford Thunderbird with the horns on it. I'd be driving him into get near the stadium, get near the field in the state fair. And I had a guy one time actually literally like cut me off, almost hit the car, and get out of his car to start trying to scream at me and fight at me. I'm like, bro, I'm just driving. I'm literally just driving here. So, and I feel like those kind of incidents don't happen as much as they used to. I remember a bunch of, drunken frat kids screaming at each other at 8 o'clock in the morning because they're already hammered on their beer. But
I might have been one of those.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But I feel like recently there's been a bit of a shift. And maybe it's because of the absence. We lost the A&M rivalry. And so the OU rivalry kind of came in and became much more prominent. But I feel like there's just more of a level of respect. OU having accomplished a little bit more than A&M has on the field, I think has, from the Texas perspective, I respect OU as a team a little bit more because of that.
100%.
And I think maybe here recently, even though we went through a pretty rough decade and we're coming out of that, it does seem like the past 5-6 years, there's been a little bit, it's been a little less aggressively ugly in person and more of a mutual respect, some jawing back and forth, some shit talking back and forth, but not the hated, like I don't fear for my life going in and out, right?
And I think, in a lot of the games, they used to have some games that took 2:30, people making a big deal about that versus 11.
Right.
I don't get it. I mean, it's a little later. I'll tell you one year, this is a great story for us to remember. 1977.
Yeah.
Earl Campbell was a senior. I was a freshman at UT. We were pretty darn good. We had a starting quarterback named Mark McBath, great athlete. He goes down, knee injury. They put in John Ani, he was like a 1A. They were both fantastic sophomore quarterbacks.
Yeah.
3 plays later, he goes down.
Oh, jeez.
And you're sitting there going, is this real?
The wind just
You can't believe it. Your top two
yeah.
guys go down. And so they put in a guy named Randy McEachern. He was in my fraternity. He was, he looked like
He didn't know what he was
he
doing.
looked like me. I mean, it was like, and they ended up, he ended up being all Southwest Conference. They went, undefeated till Joe Montana and Notre Dame took us out in the Cotton Bowl, or that would have been a natty year.
Yeah, yeah.
So, right now everybody feels good. We got Quinn back. We got Art
Right.
sitting there waiting. But just remember, in case things go bad, we can still pull it out. Don't lose faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that's something, we're getting the injury reports coming in. Of course, Sark had to release the official starting lineup this week. So we know for sure Quinn Ewers is back, which I think is a huge sigh of relief from all of Longhorn Nation there. Listen, Arch Manning came in, did a great job, did exactly what he was supposed to do, put numbers up, especially in that second game. And you saw consistent development from him from the few games that he played early when he didn't start, and then to his starts, even between his first start against ULM and then his start against Mississippi State, there was massive improvement. But at the end of the day, looking at it, Quinn Ewers is the quarterback. This is his team. He's really in command of this team, and he's showing a lot of poise, a lot of maturity. Let's talk about that a little bit, Rocky.
We're the veteran team this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that matters.
Absolutely.
And I think last year we saw what a veteran quarterback could do against us in that game. So I think having the veteran team.
Oh, you froze. I don't know if you.
I like
Okay.
it. We are
All right.
out in the country
Lost
right now.
that part. We lost that last of it because it froze a bit, but you're back. All right.
All
So
right.
what was the question, Megan?
Yeah, no, we're just saying, I mean, Texas is the veteran team, like Chuck was pointing out. And talking about Quinn Ewers here, again, he knows what this rivalry is about. He knows what the expectation is. Again, I was a little nervous coming into this, going, oh man, I kind of wish he had gotten a little bit of playing time against Mississippi State. You don't want him rusty. You were supremely confident. You wanted him rested. And I think, obviously that was the right choice, keeping Quinn, giving him that extra time. And Quinn does have a bit of history.
If it was the right choice. We'll see if it was the right choice when the game kicks off on Saturday.
Sure. Well, and again, you reminded me that, that 49-0 game, Quinn was coming off injury off that. He was coming off,
Right.
He hadn't played before. So this is not unfamiliar territory for him. What are you looking for from Quinn as he comes in to this game? What are some of the things you're excited about to see?
I think the first quarter will be knocking off some rust. I think, okay, so we've talked about this before, what happened last year. And when Quan is joining us in a few minutes, and then Rod Babers is joining us, so we'll all talk about it together soon, their experiences in the Red River rivalry shootout and what they're looking for too. But I would say, so we know when Quinn came in 2 years ago, it was the big 49-0 game. It was amazing, but Venables was new to his team too. He was supposed to be the defensive guru, but couldn't stop anything, right? But then the next year, it was the game of the century for them, right? They had everything lined up. They made shirts and smoked cigars, and good job, they won. They can celebrate however they like, right? But it was so predictable what Sark was coming out and doing with Quinn, his tendencies to come out and throw this bubble screen or do this. It was pretty predictable. There's been did Venables actually have signs, or, there's been some thoughts of, did he know the calls? And so now we have the headset.
There, by chance?
Now we have the headset. So that might, derail a little bit of his sneakiness this year. If he did that, whatever. But we saw, even though Quinn came in shell shocked the first quarter ish, he picked it up. He finished strong. It was just, it even came back and took the lead, but the hole was already dug, right? With the interceptions early. So I think what has to happen this year is ball security for everyone, right? We've been talking penalties and ball security. We cannot give them short fields. They've already shown they're one of the worst in the country. We're having to go the length of the field. They're not going to do 15, 16, 18 play drives for 8 minutes. That's not what OU does. But if you give them a short field, if you turn the ball over in your own end and they only have 35, 40 yards to go just to get in field goal, then they kick a field goal, they're in it, and they're going to have confidence. So what we need from the offense is no self-inflicted penalties, and it's going to happen back in that loud end. We talked about it. One half of the end, Gunnar Helm says you can't even hear yourself think, right? So if we can eliminate those self-inflicted penalties and then care about the ball so much, right? They're going to get their turnovers. They're one of the best in the country. They have over 2 turnovers a game. It can't be back in our own end where they think they have a shot. They're going to try to use momentum swings are huge.
They're going to try to use the Mississippi State blueprint. They're going to try to drive the ball, keep it away from us like they did in that first quarter last game. But I'm not sure they can. And I think that our secondary, I think is so improved that we're going to be able to do a lot of one-on-one to try to thwart that rush.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You bring up a good point. We talked about this a little bit on last week's show with Mississippi State. Levy brought a really solid game plan against Texas. He was prepared. He understood how Texas functions and what they do. And for a lot of times, I mean, Texas looked like they were on their heels. I think one of the things that is going to be important, we're talking about running up the middle. That's Mississippi State had some success there. If Texas can plug up the middle of the field, that'll be a really good move for them. As far as looking at the quarterback goes, though, I think there's still a lot of questions around this OU quarterback coming in. It's been really interesting. Our friend Texas Homer released some information today where he's actually, it's hard to tell. There's not a huge sample set here, right? So
6 quarters.
Yeah.
He's got 6 quarters.
Yeah. So if we're looking at what he has played and what he's done, he's actually pretty decent on those intermediate passes. He's had some success there, a relatively high success rate compared to the rest of the SEC. As he gets a little bit deeper, again, he's only thrown something like 8 passes deep. And he's had some success, but hasn't really been tested in that sense. The really interesting thing that I found about him was those short, easy passes, right? The quote unquote easy passes. He's not doing very well. He's not connecting on those shorter routes, the 2-3 yards, anything below 5 yards. He's just not doing very well. So his propensity is to run first, right? Like if he's not making those short passes and doesn't have anything long. And like you said, our DBs are greatly improved. I think Texas is going to show some really good coverage here.
And we'll probably spy on him some too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be his chance, Hawkins' chance he's going to want to tuck it and run. He's a younger quarterback. He knows he can get some stuff done with his legs. And I think that's where Texas has to be careful. We know that he's going to run. We know that he's not as confident in his passing, but those middle lanes, again, is where Texas was showing some weakness against Mississippi State. So I think that's something the defense needs to keep an eye on. And I know they've been working on that in the bye week and in these 2 weeks that they've had to practice.
I don't know, but I think y'all remember when James Brown came in as a freshman?
I do.
Yeah.
I played pretty good. That was actually one of my favorite games ever. We were running around the fair afterwards just going, I feel good.
Yes.
I mean, that was so, a freshman can light it up, but
not
Texas has a pretty good defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the difference here too, like Texas took advantage of the bye week to get a couple players healthy, most notably Quinn Ewers. If you look at OU's injury report, it looks about the same. They were hoping to get Deion Burks back. He's not back. So even if, he's listed as questionable, but the reports are he's not playing. So if you look at who's he going to throw to, even if he does run to extend the play, he might run to use his feet and gain a few yards if he can, and he can break away run if it's wide open. But a lot of times players,
right? Our old guy.
Players like Hawkins, they're running to extend the play, right? And so he's still looking downfield for a throw. But they were getting to the point where they don't have anybody to throw to. They're down to maybe Brennan Thompson and one other player, I forget. So they're coming into this game already one-dimensional. Like we always talk about, the goal is to make them one-dimensional and then contain them there. They're coming in pretty one-dimensional already. They have one of the worst offenses in the country in multiple stats. But this is, like we said earlier, this is a rivalry game. They've had 2 weeks to build an offense around who they probably is their starter. But here's a fun question, Megan, Chuck. Who do you think's the backup? Do you think it's going to be Casey Thompson, or are they actually going to try to bring Jackson? Is Jackson Arnold going to redshirt? Because if he plays again, his redshirt year is over.
I've heard both. I don't know about you. I've heard both. I've heard that he is not going to play because he doesn't want to burn a red shirt. But I've also heard, he might come in kind of like what was the guy a couple of years ago that ended up being the Heisman Trophy winner? Came in
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams came in and changed that game. So Jackson Arnold might, be the guy, but I would expect to see Thompson.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think that OU is just not high on Arnold right now. Obviously, he got benched after really poor play. And I haven't seen anything that has suggested that he has developed and fixed all of the problems that he has in the past 2-3 weeks, right? The other upside to that, too, is that Casey is familiar. I mean, he did have a year under Sarkisian, right? So he is familiar somewhat with this Texas offense, how it's going to be run, the propensity. Now, again, Texas is a very, very different team in 2024 than they were
Exactly.
4 years ago.
I would love to know what's going on in that family, though. The guy's a star quarterback. Dad's a star quarterback for OU.
Yeah.
And he goes to Texas. And then he leaves Texas and goes to Nebraska. And then they say, come on home, and now he's back.
Yeah.
What a wild turn of events.
Well, I have a question though. Like everyone's, just dissing on Jackson Arnold, and he didn't look great. But how great is he supposed to look? I'm just going to play devil's advocate, say I was his mom. How great is he supposed to look if he's behind an offensive line that grades 1 through 5 very low? They grade low. Pro Football Focus has them all lowly grade, and all his receivers that he trained with all spring camp and through summer, they're gone. So how good is he supposed to look? They're down to a true freshman running back is their hopes and dreams right now. So is it really all Jackson Arnold's fault? If I'm just being devil's advocate.
Too, because Connor Wegman and Jackson Arnold were pretty much there. Everybody was talking about them hitting the portal, and then they gave Connor Wegman another shot, and he proved out last week.
He lit it up. I think the big difference here, though, between Wigman and where OU is at with Arnold is that O-line, like Rocky brought up. There is nothing. Oklahoma's O-line is pretty damn bad. They're making a lot of mistakes. They're letting a lot of guys through. So again, whether you've got Arnold back there, Rocky, I think that's an absolutely fair point. I think Arnold is probably getting unfair heat for number one, his age. And number two, the lack of weapons around him and the lack of protection around him. I agree with you. I think he is not getting a fair shake at that, right? But in today's game and where we're at, and certainly going into the, Oklahoma's going up against Texas, I don't know that they care about being fair or looking at things reasonably. They want to put in who they think is going to have the best chance. And right now, from what he's shown on the field, that isn't Arnold.
And I've heard the offensive line was banged up early. The last game against Auburn, they were back when they played, and so they're expecting that group to be there. So I'm expecting a little bit better line play. I just think hopefully our defensive line and our front seven is just better. But I expect their offensive line to be better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree, though.
From what I've heard.
I still think, though, if we're talking about strengths and weaknesses here and what you're looking at with a young quarterback behind, because either way, I mean, look, if it's Hawkins, if it's Arnold, they're both still young quarterbacks with not a ton of experience. When you're looking at that, and then Rocky, like you brought up, again, a very good point, OU is missing 5 of their starting wide receivers. 5. That's a crazy number.
Can you imagine Texas not playing with Bond, Golden, Bolden, Cook, and more? Can you imagine if we were not playing with those 5? Their top 5 are not our top 5. Our top 5 are elite. However, if you take away your top 5 wide receivers,
that's what makes me think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
I really do. I expect a 20-point game.
I think it's going to be just a crazy, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about expectations. We'll talk about what we think our scores are going to be here. But I mean, there's a lot to look at here. And of course, we will dive into that a lot more as Quan joins us at 4:00. And then our friend Rod BABERS will join us again at 4:30.
Another memorable game that I got to bring up, 1984. Mac Brown was the offensive coordinator at OU, and Texas was number 1 and OU was number 2. Weather was bad, ending in a tie. And 15-15, I've never been to a game before where two bases hated each other so much. And at the end of the game, we just kind of got up and walked out, and nobody was giving him. It was funny. I was sitting on the same row with the president of UT, and I think it was Peter Flon at the time. And I'm sitting on the same row with him. And when he was walking by me, he looked at me and he goes, "I'll say one thing for you, sir." I go, "What?" And he goes, "You're very spirited." It was his way of telling me, "Wow, you're a lot."
I love it.
But
All right, for the people. I was
last
going
year,
to say, for the people that just joined us, let's introduce Chuck again. And I'll play the video of the land while you tell us, Chuck, a little bit about yourself and about this beautiful property that you have in the Hill Country.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's called the Rock and Diamond S Ranch. It's in Blanco, Texas, in the Texas Hill Country. It's about 1 hour west of Austin. And my wife, Stacy, and I have owned this for 20 years. And in the last several years, we've been spending more time elsewhere at other properties. So we started to put it on the kind of an Airbnb, VRBO type of thing. And it's a tremendous property. It has got 9 Longhorns that Megan and Rocky are very familiar with. And as a matter of fact, I just looked out my window and they're in the backyard playing right now. So that yard right there, that's where they are. So anyway, we've made it a place where people can rent it for a weekend or a week and do some family time, as well as, spend it with friends and family. So it is available right now for the Texas and Georgia game. I have not rented it out yet. And
there's the contact info on the screen.
Yeah, and I actually have some tickets I can make a deal with, so we can put a little package together.
Look at that. Sweet.
So if you like Georgia, Texas tickets and the weekend at the ranch,
40-yard line.
So again, if you guys if you don't have your Georgia, Texas tickets and you were looking for a place to stay, let me tell you, I mean, obviously we're here right now. It is gorgeous. It is the perfect Texas experience. From the moment you step on this property, it is just encased in Texas and everything cool about the Hill Country. So again, the property sleeps up to 14 people. There, as you saw, there's an outdoor pool. There's a great outdoor entertainment area. There's hunting, there's fishing, there's wildlife watching. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. So if you're interested in renting it out for the Georgia game and are looking for Georgia tickets, we've got a deal for you. Please be sure.
There it is, Rock and Diamond S.
Exactly.
Ranch.com.
Exactly.
I was about to say that.
There you go. Yeah.
phone number's right there.
So
and the website.
You guys are amazing. Thank you for including
Of
that.
course.
It's actually it's a blast. There's about 150 wineries, distilleries, within. You can go back roading too, so you don't have to drive on the road.
There you go.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
All
We
right.
love it.
So we're going to do a little bit broader college football first. But first, I want to share, this is a pretty classic video of Megan. It's just a few years old. But I thought this is pretty cool. You talked, Megan, about loading up in Clyde and driving up to Dallas. And Texas Longhorns, you worked with them. Tell us about you worked with them to make this video here. That's pretty cool, Megan. Tell us about that video.
It's always a good time. You guys saw Gabriel on there, my main man, Gabriel, but the Longhorn. But yeah, it's just a fun time. I had some friends working with the Texas Longhorns, and they came out. We did some drone work, and you can tell how long ago it was because I still had the longer hair with the shaved head on the side. So I like to mark my years by what my hair looks like. But yeah, it was a fun time working with them. As always, the Texas Longhorns social media is awesome. They're super fun to work with, and they're always on the edge of stuff.
That's so funny. What's your new car? Your Bronco called Earl?
Yeah, Big Earl. Yeah.
Gabe was just out there kind of putting horns on Earl. They were rubbing horns in the parking lot here.
He does that. He does that. I have to be careful with my vehicles with horns horns on it because Gabriel, one of my Longhorns, will come up to the horns
He
and
just did that 10
he
minutes
wants,
ago.
yeah, he wants to to play with the horns on the vehicles for sure.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, of course, that drive up, again, for those making the trip up to Dallas, you know how it is. You want to get out of town before noon because traffic gets pretty crazy on the way up. Let me ask you this, do you make the stop at the check stop in West?
I made it a few times. What's funny is I worked for Anheuser-Busch. I worked for Dan Brown in college. I was what they call the bud man on campus.
I love it. Back in your day, you were like hawking beer
18
as a
was the
student.
legal age. So
And the drinking age was still 18
it
then,
was
right?
so we stopped by the warehouse, me and a buddy of mine, Chuck Johnson. We stopped by the warehouse and they loaded 12 cases of beer in the back of his car. We were driving his car to Dallas. And they said, just give beer away. So we would stop on the side of the road, stop, and we're handing out, cases of beer.
That happened for a while. I recall, I mean, they haven't done this in a little bit, but I recall, it was you all were in the median, right? Yeah, you would drive up and you just like pull over on I-35 in the median.
Beer.
And you could get drinks and food.
I think the funniest is by the time we got to my friend Chuck's date's house, his dad said, her dad said, can I help you unload? He goes, no, that's okay. It's okay. And he goes, no, let me help you. And they opened up the trunk of the car and there was nothing but beer.
We pack light. We pack light around here.
It was
All right.
But
So
anyway.
Quan Cosby, our friend Quan Cosby, is going to join us in a few minutes to talk Red River Shootout, and then Rod Babers is jumping in the party. Going to have a great conversation. But let's really quickly kind of talk about college football. On Monday, you can go back and watch Monday's episode. We recapped the wild, crazy, upset weekend. So we're kind of looking ahead at how that caused a shakeup in the top 25. There are some games tonight, nothing really crazy. Coastal Carolina at James Madison, Middle Tennessee at La Tech. UTEP is playing at Western Kentucky, and that would be exciting if they weren't massive underdogs. Maybe they'll shock the world tonight. I don't know if you're watching that on Thursday, but there's NFL, so you're probably watching NFL. All right, ESPN 16, Friday night, ESPN 16 Utah at Arizona State. That's kind of interesting. Arizona State was almost sort of going to maybe be a playoff team if everything went their way and wherever. Utah's favored. But let's pick some fun Saturday games, Megan. There's some big ones. Bama coming off their 5-point loss at Vanderbilt. They gave up 40 points to Vanderbilt. They've given up, 60-something points in the last 6 quarters. So they have South Carolina is going to Bama. I'm sure the crowd will be there cheering for them. They dropped to number 7, Bama, after that loss. They are 21-point favorites to South Carolina. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, look, I think this is one of those that Bama got embarrassed, right? Getting beat by Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt when you're the number 1 team in the nation. That's a very proud program, a very proud blue blood. So yeah, I think Bama's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. I think they've got a point to prove that last week was a fluke. Now, like you said, they haven't looked quite as disciplined, quite as they have under Saban. I think that's a big question for this Alabama team. I think the talent is there. There's a ton going on for the team. Again, obviously, they're still Alabama until proven otherwise. But you're starting to see some kind of chinks in the armor, right? You're starting to see some questions. For me, I look at this Bama team and I see kind of that lack of discipline. You saw, who was it, Malachi Moore, that threw a temper tantrum that lasted an hour and a half as he's kicking the spotted ball, throwing his.
Refusing to come
He
up.
apologized. Let's see if his behavior improves.
He did. But to me, again, they're playing in Tuscaloosa. I think coming fresh off of that loss to Vanderbilt, they're going to come out with a vengeance. Again, South Carolina, I will say this. If this game was being played in South Carolina, I might have a slightly different take on it. But being in Tuscaloosa, I think they're going to be playing off of their fans. I think they're going to be out there for blood and to prove a point.
Red acid, I think they'll go.
We'll definitely see what culture is happening here. Is it a culture of get back on track and prove you belong and, show that you were embarrassed and that's not your standard? We'll see. Is it that, or is them twice by now scattered mess and not defending home turf? So we'll see. 10, Clemson goes to Wake Forest. That's whatever. We'll pick Texas, Oklahoma in a minute. Another interesting game for Penn State at USC. USC lost to Minnesota in that last minute 4th and goal last week. Penn State are only 5.5-point favorites at USC. I would think undefeated, number 4 in the country, Penn State, who a lot of people have as a playoff team right now. I thought they would be a heavier favorite going into a team that lost to Minnesota. But what do you think about that 5.5? I would take Penn State in 5.5.
Yeah, look, I think that's another one. I'm not convinced that Lincoln Riley has recreated the magic at SC. I think that there's still a lot of question marks around his team and who they are. I don't know that they have an identity. And I will say this too. I know that they're playing, at USC, but those fans can get apathetic really quickly. So I don't know that you can count so much on the atmosphere in the Coliseum to really boost your team up when things are getting close. I agree with you, Rocky. I think Penn State's going to take this, and I think they're going to cover that 5.5 pretty easily.
All right, I agree. I think they'll cover. I don't know by how much. Arizona goes to 14 BYU. That should be interesting. Here's one that we'll pick. 1-4 Mississippi State. Those big dogs. Okay, side note. When we were at Brown Rugby last weekend, the girls are amazing. The women are amazing on the rugby team. And they had the funniest saying that now Nadia and I have adopted and stole. They all say, she don't want no puppy. She want a big dog. And they just do that like throughout the whole game. Anytime somebody does a big play or makes a big tackle, it's pretty funny. Anyway, so now every time I see the Mississippi State or versus Georgia, all the big dogs. One's going to be a big dog. One's going to be a puppy. It'll probably be Georgia as the big dog.
Yeah.
Are they looking ahead to Texas? Mississippi State. Okay, this is interesting. Mississippi State is averaging 268 passing yards a game. Georgia is giving up over 200 passing yards a game. If you take out the Tennessee Tech game, which of course I did because that's whatever. So something's got to give there. Is Mississippi State able to throw the ball on Georgia and stay in it? Georgia's favored by 34.
Look, I think we're going to
Georgia.
Yeah, I think we're going to see something similar with Mississippi State that we did when they came in and played Texas. I think they're going to have a great game plan here. I think they're going to find some success, but I don't know that Mississippi State is at the point right now that they can capitalize on that success. You can have all the stats in the world, all the yards in the world, but if you can't finish the drive, much like Texas saw last year, you're not having success in the red zone, you're not going to win a whole lot of football games. So looking at that, again, especially being at Georgia, I think this is another game where Mississippi State is going to look good in theory, right? They're going to have a great game plan coming in, and they're probably going to put up some numbers here, but I don't know that they'll be able to finish out the plays and capitalize. Now, as far as a 34-point favorite, I don't know. I think Georgia still wins this game and wins it comfortably, but I don't know that Georgia covers the spread just because of Mississippi State's ability to put some stats up.
Right. I think if anything, Mississippi State is going to limit possessions like they did to Texas. They can run the ball, control the clock, and take those shots when they need them, move the ball with the passing game. So I'm going to say also Mississippi State loses, but maybe stays more in the 30-point, 32 range. 34 is a big cover. They had Texas at that same cover, and it wasn't even close. And Mississippi State came to Austin. All right. Florida goes to 8 Tennessee. Florida's improving. Tennessee are 2-touchdown favorites there. Let's pick this one. This is the big Saturday night college game day, a top 3 matchup. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Oregon. Both teams are 5-0. Ohio State is 3.5-point favorites. Chuck, do you have a thought on this game? Ohio State,
Let me tell
Oregon?
you, my son just texted me, said, who do we want to win? And I didn't answer because I don't know. Who do we want to win? Do we want 3 to win or 2 to win? Whoever loses, we might end up facing them in the playoffs a little bit, because they might be a 10 or a 12 or something like that. So who do we want to win? I mean, do we want to see? I would think just based on, past history, that Ohio State's probably, it's got equal talent or is good or better than we do, which is not too many people out there with that talent. What do y'all think?
Yeah, look, for me, with my Michigan State background, I want Ohio State to lose this game by a lot. But I will tell you, I'm not convinced that Oregon is a number 3 team in the nation right now. I think they are very, 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 very good. But having them at number 3,
They have the talent.
Yeah, that's questionable. Now, again, Eugene's a hard place to go in and play. I'm all about atmosphere, as you can tell. I'm all about that home field advantage. How can their fans make a difference? But I think at the end of the day, Ohio State's just I think they're going to overwhelm Oregon here.
And the way they treated us when we were in Columbus. Yeah, let's go. I'm pulling for Oregon.
I'm rooting for the Ducks. I'm rooting for the Ducks, but I do think Ohio State takes this game.
Yeah, so they're favored by 3.5 on the road at Oregon. I looked at their record. So Ohio State is their average score is 46 to 6.8. Texas is 45 to 7 average score. So they're right on par with Texas offense. But the teams they've beaten the opponent's records combined for 12 and 15. So I know people say, well, Texas hasn't played anyone. It's not that bad. The teams we beat, their combined records aren't this bad. A losing record, the teams they've beaten. I looked, their best win might be Michigan State. 3-3 Michigan State might be their best win, but they are balanced on offense, running and passing with Will Howard at 71% completion. Then I looked at Oregon. Their 35-17 is average score. Their opponents' combined records are 15-7 if you take out awful UCLA, 16-11 if you put them in. They have good wins. Michigan State, everybody has a win over Michigan State. Sorry, Megan. Oregon State and Boise State, all three solid teams with winning records. So they've beaten teams that win. So I would just say they don't have there's no Ashton Jaunty on this Ohio State team who was able to put 200 yards of offense on Oregon. So I'm going to say Oregon survives at home because the home field, night game, game day, and I think they're more tested already. They've had tougher competition leading up to this game than Ohio State has had. I will say that's also a reason somebody could pick Texas to lose a game because they're pretty similar. All right.
Louisiana Monroe is 4-1. Okay. So
and I will say, as a Spartan, as a Michigan State fan, Michigan State, Ohio State beat Michigan State by more than Oregon did. So if we're just going off of that, I'm going to say that if we're using Michigan State as the litmus test here, I think I'm
my head says Ohio State. My heart says go Ducks.
Absolutely.
All right. Also Saturday night at 6:30, same time, number 9 Ole Miss at number 13 LSU. This is another top 15 SEC matchup. Ole Miss is favored at LSU by 3.5. I'm saying LSU wins this game, and the reason I'm saying that is because Ole Miss has lost to Kentucky, and again, their best win might be South Carolina. LSU in their last 4 games, to take away that Vegas game with USC and the excitement and the drama and figuring out what their new team is. In the last 4 games, they're scoring almost 40 points a game, only allowing 20 points a game. They're putting up almost 350 yards passing. And again, their best win also might be South Carolina. So I'm going to say LSU because it's at home, because it's a night game, Death Valley. I'm going to give LSU. I think they are on the rise up, and I think Ole Miss is about to get a little more exposed. What do y'all think?
Yeah, look, I think that's another one where this is an interesting matchup to me because I feel like both of these teams, it's hard to put a finger on. It's hard to figure out where they are and who they are as a team this year. LSU has had a lot of ups and downs this year. One minute they show some flashes of brilliance and they look like the LSU that we've been used to for a while. And then the next minute they look like hot garbage, like it's hard to put a finger on what they are. And honestly, I feel that way about Ole Miss too. Not quite as extreme as LSU's swings have been, but Ole Miss is still a big question mark for me. Again, going back to my old trusty, because this is at LSU and is going to be a night game, it is hard to play in Death Valley at night. That is a crazy atmosphere. And I think we have seen LSU progressing and improving as the season is going on. So I'm taking LSU in this one. I think they cover and just win outright.
I agree with you. And I think if it was a home game at Ole Miss, I'd probably pick them. But I'm going with LSU as well because of the night game and being at home.
Yeah.
All right.
They did lose Perkins, though, right, for the year?
Yeah, they did.
That's a big loss.
It is.
That's a big loss for LSU. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's see what Lane Kiffin's got in order for them. That guy.
There you go, Ghost. We went Oregon because the Ohio State folks are mean.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, COVID robbed us of that LSU trip. Exactly, CB. All right. So Vanderbilt goes to Kentucky. Sneaky good game. I'm just going to record it and watch it later. That's going to be a sneaky good game. We have both those teams coming up. We go to Vanderbilt in just a few weeks. Iowa State at Virginia. Iowa State sets number 11 in the country. They're favored by 3 at Virginia. And this is the last one we'll pick. And we're waiting for Quan. He should be joining us any moment. 18 Kansas State at Colorado. So I compared the 2 quarterbacks just to kind of see where they are so far. We know Avery Johnson, the dual threat running phenom, and Shedeur Sanders, the dual threat, passing running phenom. Shedeur has almost twice as many yards passing right now as Avery Johnson. That's huge. 1,630 yards already, 14 touchdowns. But this was what was interesting. Everyone likes to say, oh, Shedeur's so athletic, he uses his feet so much. 40 rushes, only 25 yards. Avery Johnson, 44 rushes, 321 yards. That's huge. I think Kansas State is favored by 3.5 in Colorado. Does Colorado finally get that big real win against a ranked team that they've been looking for?
I'm not convinced that they do. Again, I think Colorado is another team that'll show flashes of really good. They are a talented team, but they're still kind of a shit show as far as the program goes, as far as the culture goes, and as far as leadership goes, in my opinion. So yeah, I think Kansas State's going to come in and they're going to look at, again, this is a regional rival, right? And back from the Big 8 days, this is something that they're looking to go into Colorado and make a statement. I think Kansas State at 18, I think is reasonable for them. I think that's a fair ranking for how they're playing right now. And I just don't think Colorado is going to have an answer for the entirety of the game. So I'm taking Kansas State in this, and I think they covered the 3.5.
And I don't know much about Kansas State this year, but I think they're going to win the war in the trenches. I mean, we've seen it. We've been up against them many, many times. So I'm going to go with Kansas State as well.
I like it. How about you?
I think their physicality on the road will travel. Now that these like teams like Colorado and Arizona, like these teams that have joined the Big 12, they're getting these old Pac-12 game times now. 9:15 p.m. Central, which is 10:15 p.m. Eastern, is these games kicking off at Kansas State, right? That's really, really late. So, I mean, nobody cares about them kids. All right. Well, we're waiting for Quan to join us. Let's talk a little bit about some of the Longhorns that are in the NFL, right? So we have something pretty cool. So the last two undefeated teams standing are the Kansas City Chiefs and Minnesota Vikings. We saw this. Yes, CB, it's only 7:15 where you'll be. We saw they're the last undefeated team standing. Kansas City Chiefs, we saw Worthy the other night have his big touchdown run and bring his the football to his mama. That was a big deal. Everybody loved that. So tonight, the game, San Francisco, Seattle, that's kind of a little NFC Pacific Northwest rivalry. Any thoughts on that? San Francisco being 3.5-point favorites at Seattle?
What are you thinking? Not much.
I'm not a big NFL guy. I mean, if you're not on my fantasy team, then I don't keep up with you much. But don't know it.
Yeah, look, I think this is another one. I think the Niners have been kind of a disappointment, right? After what they did last year and the expectations, of course, losing McCaffrey is a big deal for them. They're just a very different team without him. So, I think the injuries right now are just affecting the Niners too much. I think that's going to be too much for them to overcome.
I'm going with Shanahan. Yeah. Shanahan, the old Longhorn.
So Sunday, our teams play. My Tennessee Titans. We kind of had a quarterback. Yes,
Oh, hold on, Rocky. We are losing you here. Just a second.
Okay.
Sorry. We're Yep. No, we've hopefully that'll fix our internet issues. We had a little glitch there for just a second. So sorry, but
call Alon. Starlink is hacked.
All right. Well, Quan's here. Let's go ahead and bring Quan in on the show. He's here.
Let me in this mofo. What we got going? Hold on, let me see.
Welcome.
My boys are hooking this up. Hold on, we can't see we got to see the VY helmet.
Yes.
I'm at my boys' place, and they had like a whole little setup that was badass for me. So it's pretty sweet.
I love it.
That's great. Welcome, Quan.
What's up, Rocky? How you been?
Good to see you.
Megan,
so we'll tell you. So Chuck here, that's joining. He's a friend of Megan's. Now he's a friend of mine. He has a beautiful property where we have the Longhorns, and we like to share his property each week so that if anyone's looking for a place to stay out in the hill country. But he's a lifetime Longhorn cowboy. Was a cowboy at university.
I know Quan.
Chuck, I'm about to say I've known Chuck for a while. It's like when I went on, I was like, you look familiar.
You look up D. Cleater and Quan's picture comes up.
Absolutely.
You know what? It's that time of year, isn't it? We got a couple of days, and then we're gonna see some decleating.
Yes, we are. We've got to get into it. I love it. Well, Quan, thanks for joining us. Of course, CB's chiming in, telling you, hey man, it's good to see you. Always great to have you on.
CB, what's up, partner? Hey, matter of fact, CB's up in Oregon. One of my boys that are here, he's a doctor there. He's there from Oregon too. So
Very
he
cool.
comes in for the game, so I tell we got some Oregon love in here.
Well,
All
we
right,
were
so-
just
Isn't he still
we
up
were
there?
just making our picks. What do you have thoughts on that game, Ohio State at Oregon? We were just making our
Oh,
picks.
y'all just did those?
Yeah. Tell us what you got.
You know, I'm not mad that Dylan Gabriel's over there. I'll tell you that much. He kind of played pretty well against us last year with his bleep bleep. I it's hard to say. I think with them being at home, I feel like it's going to be a close one. And we've kind of seen these upsets. It's so unpredictable. Ohio State's been in the mix, but I think they're going to make us. These guys, if you go back to that coach last year, these games are the ones he won, which made a name for himself. So I'm going to go with Oregon on this one.
All right, quack quack.
Let's be real. Would I ever pick Ohio State?
Exactly.
I mean, let's be real. I don't like those fools. I don't care if they win or not. I don't
I'm
like
with
them.
you there.
So no, I'm never picking Ohio State. Let's go Oregon. That's another Nike school.
There you go.
All right, I'm with you. I also picked Oregon. Just looking at Ohio State's resume, they've demolished the teams they've played, but I also don't feel like the resume stacks up to the wins that Oregon has, and they're at home in a night game. So I also picked Oregon to win that game.
And I think it factors in a little bit of what we're going to see this weekend for us. Experience at the quarterback position is a big deal.
That's fair.
And experience, and then big game guy like that. Similar when Lincoln Riley was good. You have, I think their head coach has those abilities. So, I think Oregon's gonna make their name in the Big Ten, like we're making some hay in the SEC. So
I want to ask you this one. We've talked about it on the show a little bit. What are your thoughts? I mean, you know the life of a student athlete. You know the demands that is put on their shoulders. What are your thoughts about teams like Oregon and joining these conferences all the way across the country and having to fly as much as they do and travel as much as they do? What are your thoughts on that? Is that gonna rear its ugly head at some point? Is it gonna matter?
There's two layers to that. Our volleyball teams, our basketball teams, a lot of them do it already, right? They're a lot smaller. They're not, packing up 85 to 100 people. And let's be real, and I mean this in the nicest way, football makes most of the money from a TV deal.
Yeah,
and so it's going to be harder just in theory, because when you play at 9:15 versus, 7 your time or 5, those are the ways it's going to actually matter, in my opinion, versus the flight, because these kids are spoiled, man. These kids are freaking flying charter in their own plane and staying in 5-star hotels. So as much as it does matter, because I think I was talking to Hartzell, and he said our furthest game in the SEC is to South Carolina.
Right.
Their closest game is to Lincoln.
Right.
And it's further than our furthest game. And
Right.
so that always matters to the body and all the above. But you just have to. The Pac-12 is dying slowly but surely. And so for the money, the Big Ten's a great conference. Yeah, they had to do it. They really had to with the realignment. And I'm not mad at it, because I think clearly our move, and then you go into that move, it's why we have a 12-team playoff. And hell, again, we thought it was going to be the most boring. I scheduled a golf tournament last week, and I was like, man, football's not going to be that great, last weekend on our bye week. And I'm trying to play golf, and I'm going, what the? I got to tee off in a minute. I'm trying to go watch this game, dude. This is there. Frazier going down. Oh no, Frazier went down again. Oh, hold my beer. Frazier went down again, and it's like, holy cow. So the NIL, there's some things I really, really dislike about NIL, but what you have to admit is the monopoly of Nick Saban getting 15 5-stars doesn't happen anymore. Or even the monopoly of us. We had 3 5-star quarterbacks. Now Malik's balling at Duke. So that Duke that has a decent amount of NIL that they can put into a quarterback is going to even the playing field. And then if that quarterback brings another guy, the numbers you hear are inflated. They're not as crazy as you think.
Right.
If you grew up like I did, $50,000, $25,000 is like, bro, I'm rich. And that's a lot of the kids that are playing the sport. So if you go to a Duke, if you go to this school or that school or Kentucky or all of that, and by the way, Lexington, Kentucky is a damn cool city. let's be real, Nashville, we'll be there in a few weeks. It's a pretty cool city.
Oh,
And
we'll
so,
be there.
you know what I'm saying? So they have some players across the country, and you have a phone where you can talk to your family and not worry about it. And so I think the parity is going to be even cooler. And it's going to be tough for those guys, to your question, but I think they'll figure it out. What it's going to be tough for more, in my opinion, is the teams that don't fly charter. You know, it's the volleyball teams, it's the softball teams, it's the track, and football and basketball, we fly charter. It's the baseball teams.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And to that point too, I think it's also the teams that are playing multiple games per week, right? You mentioned volleyball, but when you get into softball, when you get into baseball, you know, they're playing four games every week and having to travel, and that kind of distance, I think that's when it starts to compound a little bit and make it difficult. And oh, by the way, they're also still students too. So when are they?
You know, they are. And that's the real big deal, because the cool thing about what we're seeing on campus is you got guys like Sam Elliger, who graduated from McCombs before he finished. So school does matter to these youngsters, which is great to see. NIL is helping that as well. They're staying a little bit longer for that reason. But the silver lining with COVID is the ability to be mobile from school.
Mm-hmm.
And so multiple games makes it hard, but if you can mix in on that flight some study time in that hotel room for 30, 45 minutes, it's about time management. And I would argue post-career, because most people don't go pro, their ability to manage time because of those schedules, they should be put at the top of the stack, because you got a competitor who can manage time, who's going to kick butt, who wants to win, who wants to produce. And so I think there's, in life, there's always the good and the bad, right? But
Sure.
The travel time is going to suck, but if you can't control it, you find the best way to kind of take it to another level and better yourself for the big picture.
Yeah, man, that's one thing I love about you so much. You're always a silver lining guy. You always are. You always bring that positivity in. I love that.
Man,
You know what else? You know what else you bring, Quan? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chuck.
I just have a question for Quan. What are you hearing about the new baseball coach at the 40 acres right now?
Oh man,
their tails off.
Well, you know what? And I got to start with this. Pierce is a good friend. Pierce is a really good friend. And if Pierce watches this, he might not invite me to golf anymore. But I think Pierce did well. I appreciate his time here. I think going into the SEC, I worried about where we were. Big 12 is really good baseball, and we didn't necessarily always win it. He did go to the World Series a couple of times, but SEC, we want to talk about SEC football, and it's good. SEC baseball is 3 times better.
Amazing.
And we needed a guy who can handle that. He went to the freaking Aggies and got to the championship game in several years.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to give a spade a spade. As much as I love Sark, if Saban came back and said, I actually would take Sark now. But if Sark was year 2 and Saban was like, you know what, I really want to come back, I'm sorry, Sark, we probably would have had to have that conversation. And so that's the way I see it with what Schlossnagels did everywhere he's been. You can't
My daughter was at TCU. My daughter Chelsea was at TCU, and they were amazing.
They kicked our butts.
They were.
I mean, let's be real. Everywhere he's gone, they've kicked our butts. And that's, again, Pierce, love you. You're my dude. We can go have Miller Lights all day long. But if you look at their head-to-head record, it's a little different. So he's happy where he is. He's awesome. He's helping down at Texas State, and I'm happy for him. But to stick on, really, Schlossnagle is the real deal. Let's just be honest. He's a real deal. He's bought into what NIL is, how to maneuver that, how to do the portal right. He's changed with the times. I think Saban's secret sauce, if you go back to when they won that first natty that they shouldn't have, they were a power run, team. When Saban left, they were a spread. They were getting quarterbacks. They were throwing it around the field. He had Sark as an offensive coordinator. So the best coaches evolve with the times, the trends, and all the above. And that's been the best description that my boy Ty Harrington, who coached for a long time, said about Schlossnagle. He said, dude, no, this guy is the truth. And again, doesn't take anything away from what Pierce did, but Schlossnagle is what we want at Texas is we want, and I'm gonna be honest with you, we have it in a lot of places, top 5 coaches in the country, and I mean we damn near have it in every freaking. You have coaches winning national championships and going to them and taking jobs at Texas. Our female golf coach, baller. Our swimming coach, I mean they are like, you know what? And goosebumps moments for all of us as the swimming coaches addressing the team for the first time. And he goes, listen, we won the Natty, but I got a call from Texas. This is the standard.
Yeah.
Hey, give me my ring. Let me come back. I'm going to get all that, but I'm out of here because I'm going to win Natties. It's going to be plural at that place and the support that you have in the north side. So it's just a different beast. And I'm happy as, you know what, to have Slosh on campus. I've run into him several times. He's doing all the right stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen him in folks, you know, tailgates, suites, parties. He is everywhere. And essentially, that's what you need at the UT. That's the same thing you see from and what's last but not least, what's so cool about a good portion of them, they all really like each other that quick. You know, Sloshnagle told me one of the first texts he got was from Sark. Welcome, brother. Let's go do it. Are you kidding me? If they don't get you fired up, goodness gracious, I know it's Texas OU week, but that's what it takes across that campus, and that's what we had back in the day, and you're starting to see a lot more
how
of
you win
it.
Directors Cups too, by every single sport putting it out there. So yeah, that's impressive.
Absolutely, man. And
Yeah.
campus life is real good. What were you about to say earlier, Rocky?
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of bringing it or whatever it was, I wanted to show this. And I want you to tell us all about it.
Oh, man. This is awesome.
This is the clip, the legendary Cosby block. Shipley's run, and then here comes boom. Everyone's seen it a million times, and we could see it a million more.
I know. See
if
that still shows, because I want to show y'all the funniest part of this clip.
It keeps going a little longer. Tell us
I want to see if they show the angle where Brandon Collins is standing over the dude, because when I hit this fool, who is such a hater and he still whines about it, but I hit him, and Brandon Collins, he almost hit. You see BC up there running by Ship, who was also open, but I hit him. Brandon Collins goes over, and right here he almost hits him, and he jumps up. And he's screaming at the top of his lungs. And we've all seen Friday, right? And then he's literally on top of him, like smoking. He goes, "You got knocked the bleep out." and I was fired up, but then I just bust out laughing because BC was so freaking funny. And that's probably the combination of that. And unfortunately, Lindy's still getting this clip from his own fans every October is why we don't really talk. But man, it's so fun. There was literally one negative about that. And it was a negative for once, but it was a great thing for another. I wanted my boy Ship to score that touchdown. They got called back. But Cody Johnson, the king of 1-yard touchdowns, came in and took care of business. So, man, that game was one of my most, truly outside of the national championship and Fiesta Bowl, I honestly would say you got the Natty because we won it and we represented the state. Right. And 1A and 2A and 2B is Fiesta Bowl in that game. And it's just it was that cool and that special. By the way, before we go on, how's my girl doing, Rocky?
Nadia, she's here.
Where's she at?
I can go call her.
I want to say what's up, man.
Okay, I'll text her. She just
I know her. Yeah, I just want to say what's up.
She has 2 massive backpacks that weigh 50 pounds each. One's book, laptop, everything, and the other's like clothes, wrestling gear, all her stuff for sports. And she has to carry all of the like 50 pounds. And normally I pick her up, but today she had to walk.
All right, make sure she in the mood for some saying how today.
Stronger.
No, but that actually does help me because my daughter has the same thing and she's in volleyball and all that. And I'm like, why do you need 2 backpacks? And then I see it, I'm like, not just 2 you have luggage. This is not backpacks. Like these are massive. Why do you need that? So you just helped me out a lot. I get a little more empathy because it made 0 sense that she was piling 2 backpacks, a big old cup of water. And I'm like, does it really take that much to go to school these days? I mean, y'all do everything electronically. Y'all don't even have books in there.
Every class, well, not to get off track, but every class needs all this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so talking about that block, that amazing block, I just texted her to come say hi. She's probably going to go do her hair for 20 minutes. Speaking about that block, one of the things Sark has talked about, like bringing it to 2024 team.
Yeah.
One of the things he's talked about is like the explosive runs and the running backs and why there hasn't been, the explosion that we've had in the past and why is that lacking? And he said some of that is on the downfield blocking. That's wide receivers' responsibility. We've seen like DeAndre Moore put in work, Jay Witt style work downfield. What are you seeing from that downfield authority to extend those explosive plays that just are missing?
Man, and really clearly we know, just being honest about the facts, is we've had some injuries in that position, right? But Blue is very explosive, and he's gotten down there. But you get through the line. Ultimately, the line's responsible for a 4-yard gain, in my opinion. After that, it's the tight ends going to the next level. It's the receivers going downfield. Jamal Charles was a king of it. Yeah, he was fast, but he didn't often get touched because we were right there with him. And so we took pride in that. And I do believe these guys do for the most part. The interesting thing about it, though, is our receiving core is so good. They're playing 5 and 6 DBs, and they're kind of backed up too. So whereas we outnumber them in the core, sometimes I think they outnumber us on the secondary. So it does get a little tricky from there. But I see the effort most of the time. But if Sark is calling it out, he watches a lot more film. It would be nice. Well, I digress. They actually can't hit anybody like that anymore. Football's gotten a little bit softer.
There is that.
They can't do that anymore. That would be illegal. But yeah, even no, it was not targeting. It just crackback. I may have had some other games or some targeting, but it really half the time they just need to get in the way. Our backs are good enough, and if they can stand there and just kind of shade them. As we say, if you're even, you're leaving. So get in their way so that they can pass them and break for a long one. We also, because of those injuries and protecting the backs, I think we throw it 70% and run it 30. And so I think we pass to set up the run. So when we want to get 5 yards here, get ahead of the chains and all of that, it's going to limit. I think at best we've had a game where we ran the ball 28 times, 26. And so you're just, by the pure numbers, you're not going to have as many explosive. But it would be awesome to kind of jump out on them like we did in that game. And Chris Obanaya at the end of the game breaks one for 60 to seal the deal. That's what he would like. That's what we'd hope for. If you go back to last year, Jonathan Brooks in Tuscaloosa, when we needed that 5-minute drive and he broke one for 20, he broke one for this. That's the stuff I think Sark always thinking big picture. We're going to need that at some point, especially in these next few weeks as we're in the thick of it. So the run game to kind of seal a win and different things like that. And how cool is that? We're 5-0, we're number 1 in the country, but we have a coach who's just not satisfied. He's like, ultimately the way he come to it and he prepares every week is like, we're good. But hey, you know what? In order to win it, we need this. In order to do this, we need that. And so that's why he's been a little more critical, but I like it.
I love that. All right. So I wanted to ask a question. You brought up Texas is ranked number 1 in the country. There was a quick blip there for a minute where Alabama overtook us, and then Vandy handled that for us. So shout out to our SEC brethren, Vanderbilt.
For at least 2 more weeks. Then we're going to go whoop that. You know what?
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I said this earlier. They've now met their quota for upsets. They are good for the year. They can be done with it. We're good. Thanks, Andy. You're good to go.
No more goalpost situation. Just y'all good.
Can they even afford to put another goalpost up?
No.
Right? Like they're selling the current one off.
They have good tuition.
They do. They're expensive.
Oh, that's a good point.
They're expensive.
But they are auctioning off pieces of that goalpost that they fished out of the river to pay for the fine that the SEC levied on him. So I don't know. Another upset might just bankrupt him.
I'm sure donors will be happy to upset another number 1 team.
Look, I'm just saying, help me help you, Vanderbilt. You want to save money. You've met your upset quota. You're good. You're good to go. But going back to this, Texas at, again, 5-0. This is the first time in a long time that Texas has come in ranked as high as they have for this OU game. They had the bye week before. Do you feel like Texas is deserved at number 1 with the record that we have, considering the teams that we've played? You hear that chatter, oh, Texas hasn't played anybody. What's your take on that?
Ultimately, we did beat – they can say what they want. And Michigan had a little blip last week too, but Michigan's going to have 7 first, second round guys off that team. They're good. And unfortunately, what they don't have that we have is an unbelievable quarterback room. And so I do think we're worthy of it, and excluding my bias, because I for me, that ranking matters in January more than it does in October.
1,000%.
But the truth of the matter is this: when they put us at number one, we beat Michigan the way we did, and then the next week, I think they put us there, and then the next week they really did it after Quinn got hurt. So Quinn was leading the Heisman. Quinn gets hurt. He's 2 touchdowns in. Arch comes in, throws 4, runs for 1. Arch does the same thing next week. Why? The reason, in my opinion, they were number one is because nobody else in the country has that. Georgia, Beck is phenomenal, potential top 5 pick. Beck goes down, Georgia's a very different team.
Yeah.
Milroe goes down, Alabama's a very different team. If you go down the list in the top 10, they lose their starting quarterback. They're very different teams. Well, we got this dude back here wearing number 16 that just comes in. Oh, my bad. We have 2 guys on the Heisman list now. And so when you're number one, when your roster looks like that, you're number one when your O-line's number one in the country. Your receiving core is top 3. Your defense is playing lights out. You're leading, the nation in 5. That's what's so funny about this game too is Oklahoma's a really good defense. They're not beating us in one category on defense. So our offense is so good. We're not talking about our defense. Our defense, Hill is the truth. Collins is the truth. Jade is the truth. And that's just one of many of them. My boy Taff is balling. And so I do think we deserve it because our roster, in my opinion, might just be the best roster in the country, especially in certain rooms when you think about depth. We lost our starting running back. Didn't skip a beat. So if you really dissect it on that level, I'm sorry, but it doesn't mean we're a shoe in for the Natty. Hell no. You got to play the game. You got to win. But per the roster and the look test, we're by far, in my opinion, in that room alone, just number one.
No, I love that. I love that you're saying that. Yeah. And something we've talked about and Sark has talked about over the course of this season, something they're queuing in on is versatility. Not only does Texas have the depth, but they have players that are super versatile. They're able to play at several different positions and be very successful. You brought up the defense. I love that so much.
Dude, first of all, you're about to get your boy Rod in here in a second. And he called it positionless football. And that's special when you can have, Hill back there, a linebacker, locking down that Michigan first-round tight end, and then put him on the edge and go get him a sack. And you're moving Collins outside, inside. Just all over the place. Jade can play, corner. He can play safety. It's just that is – they're guys who are one side. They may be really good on that side, and that's where they are. Well, hell, you could put somebody out there that never get the ball, and you basically – forget about them, but you just can't do that with us because we're all over the place. And it's very similar on offense. You got guys running the ball out of the backfield like Bond, and you have, Wingo. Hopefully, I think he's going to be fine this game. It's just so many freaking weapons. We have a tight end. We have I think 7 dudes with multiple touchdowns. And so it's
amazing.
The blessing and the curse of losing. The curse is you never want anybody to get hurt. And CJ Baxter and the other kid. The blessing is it happened in camp. So Sark, with the brilliant offensive mind that he is, he can prepare for it. He now, those 4 yards, they can come in a million different ways, and he's doing it and executing it well. And our closest game would be last week, but we also had a tip punt, 2 fumbles, and 2 drop touchdowns. Literally, just say you score in half of those, then, oh, by the way, we still beat them by over 3 touchdowns. Like, come on, fans, let's relax here, bro. This is football. This is college football.
Quarterback.
And with our backup freaking quarterback, so he is in the Heisman race. But
Nadia's here to say hi to you, Quan.
Oh, where's my girl, Nadia?
Just pop in and say hi.
Hi.
What's up? Sorry you had to walk with all that luggage, but always good to see you.
Say hello.
This is no comment.
She's like, no comment.
All right, bye.
Great to see you. But no, man, we're in a freaking really. Oh, tell her I'm proud of her. I see the social media. She's been balling too.
I'll let her know.
But no, man, we freaking we're in a good place between depth. Again, guys, Baxter, Nick Saban, the GOAT himself, said Baxter is the best running back in the SEC. And we lose him, and we're 5-0, and things are going very well. My man needs to take care of the ball, but he knows that. No one has to tell him that. And he's just as, fiery. He's explosive, catching the ball and all the above. So that's why a long way of saying yes, we have depth, but two, the ability for all of them in different positions, talking about being versatile. Blue catching the ball out of the backfield is just as dangerous as Blue taking it between the lines. And so, and our freshman running back, all these guys, they just, you can go on and on and on. And those that are watching that even don't have our burnt orange bias, they see it and they're going, man, I've watched these other schools and they're good, but Texas looks a little bit different right now. Now, again, they have to go out and prove it tomorrow or in 2 days, certainly the following week and all the above. But where we are right now, I don't think anybody's complaining. And it's a hard argument to make that we're not the best team in the country.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I did want to talk. We're talking injuries right now, right? You mentioned Baxter being out. Of course, we knew that. With this recent roster update and everything going on, it looks like Christian Clark, Belton Gardner, and Colin Page, all running backs for Texas, are listed as out. One thing that caught me off guard.
Yeah, the kicker and the deep snapper.
Yeah, one thing that caught me off guard a little bit was Michael Kern, our deep snapper and our punter, being listed as questionable. We do have a backup. Yeah, we do have a backup.
So just don't punt.
Right? That's
I was about to say, hey, that might be a little, y'all know they've been having some sauce over there. You got them dancing in the end zone. You got Arch over here doing some Louisiana boogieing. And so that might have been a little, it might have been a little Sark jab saying, no, they're questionable. We don't know if we're going to use them this game.
Yeah,
all right.
Always makes faces when they ask him about availability. I feel like he always plays coy with it. You know, when he was asked about Quinn earlier, he's like, "Oh, we're not sure."
Not like
why would you tell OU on Monday when you don't have to?
Exactly.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Quan. One of the things Sark always talks about, especially leading into this rivalry, is playing with emotion, but not playing emotionally. Yeah. Some of the players in the availability this week were asked about that, about the heated rivalry. And they were talking about, like, we got to keep our cool. We got to play for each other. Trust in the preparation. It's heated. Tell us about, from the time you get off the bus and, you know, the OU fans and the stuff they say and having to be in the tunnel. And how do you keep your cool when things get like physical after the play in this game?
No, that's easy. And I'm gonna translate to what Sark is saying. Hit Lenny Holmes like that. It's legal to knock the crap out of them, be more physical, and just make them quit. And every time their fan says something to us, I was like, that sucks because you're going to pay for it. And that was our mindset. So you're very passionate about this game, and you're emotional. You're very emotional about when you make a big play. You get fired up. You show every bit of that. But they're going to do super stuff, especially when you start knocking them around. I mean, you saw it in the NFL game where Pickens grabbed the helmet and threw him down. That's being emotional versus playing emotional. You can be fired up, use that to absolutely control the line of scrimmage, to run it down their throat, to beat the brakes off of them. And then your celebration can be passionate when you're done. But just don't do anything that costs your team. You don't want to get behind the chains. You don't want to be so emotional that you have the pre-snap penalties, because all that stuff matters. And let's be real. They're limping in. We were talking about injuries, and we do have our few, but hell, I think they have like 12. They don't have they lose any more receivers, they're going to be going to Norman campus and trying having another tryout. And so I think a lot of people don't talk about this publicly, but they're outmatched per the roster. They need us out of our zone. You get in that zone, you're focused, you got things rolling, you do it right. They're going to try to do some things to get us out of character. And so that's what Sark does. And by the way, it happens in this game every single year. So Sark is like, hey, when they do that, move on. Go hit them in the mouth. Go catch a touchdown. It's almost be passionate and emotional enough to point at the scoreboard because you're up by 4 touchdowns versus getting into a helmet slang and BS that they might try to get you into. Because at the end of with their roster being so depleted and crazy, it could be a guy in there for that reason. I'm not saying that's conspiracy theory, but they need to find any way. And let's be real, the other elephant in the room, Venables, he found a way last year, but this game will get him an extension. And so a year that you don't look great, you lost your quarterback, all this different stuff, you beat Texas in Dallas, then you're not fired. As simple as that. It's just how it works. And so we'll expect some trick plays, do all that, be emotional, but know your assignment, take care of business. That's what they mean by trust the process, trust your eyes, because they will do some crazy stuff. And if you're in position, we have the better team to take care of business.
Yeah.
Hey, Quan, guess who's here to join the party?
Rich?
Right.
What's up, baby? I was just talking about you positionless football, baby. I get that from my boy Rod.
My man, it's good to see you, man. It's crazy. We were just talking about you, talking about that 2008 game and how you and Shipley and Jordan went off. We actually had y'all box score up on the last show I was doing. So that's legit, man. Good to see you.
That's my man. Hey, listen, y'all know how impressive that is. That says a lot about y'all. As my man Rob B does about 38,000 shows around here, and he makes time to come on here because one, it shows who y'all are, and it equally shows who he is. And so good to see you, fam. Always good to see you. How's baby girl?
She's actually right here. She's actually right here.
Y'all
Can we see her?
Love it. We got these daughters, man.
She starts screaming, man. We in trouble. Here,
Let's see.
Awesome. Oh man, she's so cute.
Hey, hi.
Oh my goodness. Is this her television debut? Her YouTube debut?
It is. Yes,
hey, no better week than Texas OU week, baby.
Did you do that yet? Oh,
Can she go like this?
Yeah, I know. We've been working on it. I swear. She's really close. Me and wifey been working on it hard. In the next 2 weeks, before the season's over, she's going to be throwing up the hook 'em. I guarantee you.
All right.
Oh, yeah, she's adorable.
Hey, sweetie.
Thanks, guys.
She's I'm going to translate that in baby talk. OU sucks. She don't know what that's all she's saying. Every time she does that is her word of saying OU, you know what.
Well, teach him right. Just a few minutes ago, Nadia came
see, boom.
When she was like 5 or 6, we taught OU sucks in our house because that's good parenting. She was sitting at the table doing her language arts, whatever, writing, and she was writing the word about. And she goes, ABOU sucks T.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No. We don't like to use bad language around her, but sucks, we'll make an exception.
Only this week. OU's bad every other week.
Yeah, my daughter Charles C went to pre-K after I'd taken her to the Texas OU game. And when we went to pick her up, they said, "Can we talk to you for a second?" I said, "Sure." They go, "Well, your daughter was saying OU sucks at school." I go, "They do, but I'll talk to her about it." So
You did a good job.
And you took it for ice cream after that, right?
Yeah. So, Daddy, am I in trouble or because? Don't say that after this week.
Yes, no doubt.
I love that we've got girl dads on. This is the girl dad podcast right now. It's
I'm a proud one too. Damn proud of it.
Yes, indeed, brother.
All right. So, Rod, we were just chatting. We are kind of talking about the heated environment and how Sark tells the players, to play with emotion but not emotionally. What is your thought on how the players can come out passionate and hard but keep their cool? This is the intense and most intense environment they will face this year, maybe all year, until Aggie Land in November.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're right about that. That Aggie Land, that's gonna be a religious experience for them, though, for the boys there. But I'm with you. It is. I remember the emotional charge coming out from underneath the OU fans in the tunnel. That's the first kind of emotional. And we used to come out of the tunnel at the same time, which was totally different. So then you had that competitive, fluids. You had all those competitive fluids going, competitive juices going. And then you had the come out of the tunnel and all the OU fans making up cuss words and cussing you out. And then you come to this sea of orange. You start to hear the boos and the expletives and the cuss words dissipate. And you start to hear the cheers and you see the sea of burnt orange. And that's your first kind of emotional charge. And if you're a young player not used to that environment, it can overwhelm you early. I mean, you can be basically hyperventilating early in that game. You're so hyped. It's really big to realize early in that game, once the emotion subsides and once all that dissipates, it's just back to football again. And I think that's ultimately the older players, the mature players know how to handle that, especially the quarterback position. That's why since 1990, the quarterback with more experience, over 70% win percentage in this game, because those guys handling their emotions matters more than any of us. because they have the ones who have to work in a more cerebral plane than everybody else. So they have to make sure they separate the emotion from their, intellectual ability to process things.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, we mentioned a little bit earlier, the maturity on this Texas team is really impressive. This is the first time in a long time that I feel like we've had not only maturity on the team with guys that have been around, but we've also got continuity, right? We've had continuity in the coaching. We've had consistent messaging, consistent coaching throughout this whole time. One of the things that I really love hearing Sark talk about, he's mentioned it a few times in his pressers, is we are now at the stage where Texas understands, the players understand the why of football. And for me, the first time I heard him say that this year, it just made me go, oh my God, he was talking about this 4 years ago in his introductory press conference, right? You get the fundamentals down, and then you get the plays down. And then what he said was, when the team really starts to get it and really understands and really has success is when they understand the why. I feel like, and he's mentioned in Texas's, the players are talking about the why. They understand the why. Have y'all seen that in this team right now? Do you feel that they're at that point?
I feel defensively we can see it, right, Quan? Don't you see it on defense with the DBs?
Yeah, man. Oh. It's the way they prepare, and that attention to detail, right? Rod knows that as good as it. Your eyes, your communication, everybody think defense, and there's an element of reaction to it, but there's a lot of things going on. There's quarterbacks on that side of it, and they have been on point. That we've talked, and Ken, I was talking to them earlier about us being ahead of them. As good as their defense are, we're ahead of them in all the categories. And I heard my man Rob giving those stats, and that's why I know that. You help me a lot in my weekly talks. Thank you. And so really, that's it, man. And really just how they prepare. Sark's team was ahead of when we got to the playoff last year. Did we earn it? Sure, we had a roster that can get there. But there's still between the ears some growth that needs to be done. And I think through the offseason, through Quinn's maturity, the O-line being one of the best in the country, the defense. I mean, how many times did we see over the last 6, 7, 8 years getting blown over the top? LSU even, 3rd and 19, whatever that was. You're just not seeing any of that. Rod and this crew said, I think they're, top 3, maybe number 1 in the nation on explosive plays from a throwing pass. That is a massive difference from what we saw. Penix throwing bombs all over the place. Now they do have some
in the spring game. We saw in the spring game, Quan. In the spring game, was giving up deep bombs. I'm like, man, we can't even stop them in the spring game. It's gonna be a long season. And you're right. Now they're the number 1 defense in explosive plays allowed in the country, and the number 2 pass defense in the country. I haven't seen a reinvention like this in a long time. And every time they ask the guys, what's been the secret to the reinvention of the secondary? What's the secret sauce? They all say Michael Taft, Ja'Day Barron. They say communication. Yes. Communication. We're talking now. We're talking. And go watch them. They're all talking, man. They're jabbering. And to the point now, Quan, they say now the DBs, which has always been the case, but honestly, but now it's happening. They say the DBs bring the juice. We bring the juice in practice now. And we're also talking the trash. They talk so much now, but now they can't shut up. Now they're talking, making adjustments. Now they're talking trash.
That has always been the case, baby. We see Prime Time still talking over there.
Let's show a little DBU bringing the juice.
Now Hibble. Intercepted. Nothing but green real estate. Hibble will come over on Babers. Touchdown, Texas. He can't get there.
Yes, legends are made in this game.
Listen, hey, I'm so glad you put that because he never gives himself credit. He said he couldn't catch. You caught that one, baby.
Yes. Hey, Quan, trust me, bro. As that ball was in the air, I was thinking, don't drop this, dog. Longhorn fans ain't gonna never let you live it down.
Hey, Rod, I have a question.
Gideon.
Rod, I have a question for you. At that game, when you made that interception, it was like a minute to go in the half.
Yep, it was.
My buddy Mark ran out to get in the beer line to get a wax cup full of beer, and then we go out there and we hear all the OU people hooting and hollering. What happened after that? Did they scored? Didn't they?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up.
Why are you getting all technical?
No.
This is crazy. I still don't know what happened.
Way to bring
it's a great lesson. It's a great lesson in the Texas OU game, and everybody needs to know it because that was one of the greatest moments of my life. And I'm thinking to myself, think about it, guys. I was 1-2 at the time versus Oklahoma. They had won a national title in 2000. I'm thinking this is the year we're going to beat OU, my senior year, and Robbie's going to be a big reason why, right? So I get the pick six, and I'm thinking to myself, I kneel down, give the Lord his props. I did the Tebow before Tebow did it, and I went to the sideline. I remember hugging my boy Sims, and we were like, "We about to do it, baby. We're going to beat him. We're going to beat him." I was like, "Yeah, this is about to happen." And after the PAT, I just had that much time to enjoy my high that I was on, and they returned the kick. I was talking to Derek Johnson about this the other day. They returned that kickoff, the next kickoff, I would say deep inside our own 10-yard line, and then they went in the score. All the momentum that my play had gathered, Quan, it was gone. You see how hype that crowd was? It was silent. They were quiet. You could hear it. Fans.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you, that's so many levels to that question and that situation on what this game can be. Let's talk about 45-35 when we were down by almost 10 and Shipley returns it for a touchdown. This game is all of it. You know what I mean? This game is every bit of it. And you would talk about us having a little more of an edge again in the special teams position. We haven't seen it as much as prominent, kind of because we haven't really been in positions of kind of needing it for the most part. So a couple of decent returns, but in this particular game, something like that happens every freaking time, and it shifts momentum. And we all know how that split field works. Big Mo is a whole different conversation in Dallas, Texas at the Cotton Bowl. So no, that's wild that even then, and we can count 10 years where something like that happened, and it really played a role in winning and losing the game.
It does. And this is the lesson, I think, guys, is for the coaches. And this is why Sark coaches that game differently now. And so does Venables, because they know what that game's all about. It's a heavyweight fight. You better answer. If you don't answer, you take the chance of the opposing team monopolizing momentum. And you could be on the bad end of that snowball of momentum. I have been there, 2000. It happened to us. We were not a bad team, but we got snowballed. We just got mollywopped in that game because we never answered Oklahoma. They just kept hitting us with haymakers, and we never answered. And we looked up, we was like, damn, dog, we're down like 3 scores. What happened? And that can happen in this game because of the momentum shift and how drastic they are. It happened to Oklahoma in 2021 in the first half. Yeah. And then it happened to Sark in the second.
And then that happened to him. Caleb Williams came in and got him drafted for. Now that's real.
Yeah.
No,
and then the next year, 49-0, they never answered. And
never answered.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really good point. That's something that we talk about. Momentum it plays a role in this game, whether you want to call it what it is or not. It plays a role in this game. And Quan, I like that you brought up special teams. I do think that's an area that Texas has been – they haven't done as well as maybe expectations, right? And now with the injury to the punter, there's some question marks there. We haven't quite yet seen a return. We haven't seen those real big breaks from Texas. And we know in this game, special teams can make or break this game for either way. So if we're going to talk about, okay, we've got a little injury here, we've got the expectations and the momentum, what are the keys? Like, where are Texas's weaknesses in this game? What do you look to see? And Quan, I'll start with you, and then Rod will go to you. Where do you see?
Yeah, man, I think, and this is just being real about it. Defense haven't gotten a lot of touchdowns. So from a kickoff return standpoint, I got a little dog here. From a kickoff return standpoint, there hasn't been a lot of options. I mean, they really have not. You start a half. You want to be smart about that, and then something else rocks and rolls, and they've given up 3 or 4 touchdowns in 5 games, and so it's just haven't been an option. And the punt return piece, I think it's a matter of time because that dude is electric, and I think they've had a mixture, but mainly Bolden back there. It's just a matter of time. And we've had this weird deal where the defense has done great, but if you're catching the ball, you let them get to the 40, they punt it to the 10. It's field position, all these different factors, I think, just factors in. I don't think they're bad. We had the tip punt, and I promise you, Banks is all over that, and I appreciate his attention to detail in the special team space. But I think they're fine. My curly hair, my man with the best hair on the team. They're just getting down there. Sark took some of his points off the board, and so no, it's so many of those things per how Sark coaches a team. I think just haven't showed their face. This is a game that I feel like it will. I don't doubt where we are in that department because I know the time they put in on it. It just we kind of take care of some business on a level that we haven't really needed it yet, in my opinion.
Appreciate it.
Yep. No, weakness is that what we're talking. I mean, they don't have a lot of. I don't know if they have a real weakness or a glaring flaw. Really, I think they have things that may be exposed a little bit later. I worry about the rushing offense, right? I worry that Texas can't just impose its will in the running game on an opponent, and that's why I believe Sark has been so pass heavy early on in games. I think naturally he likes to throw the ball to open up the run. But you go look at the early game, early down pass rate. The only game where Texas wasn't at above 60% early game, early down pass rate was the Arch Manning's first start. I think that's because he wanted to ease the young buck in there. And I think he's, basically kind of pushing the identity of the offense as the passing game. First of all, that's where all your strengths are. Nobody can match up with that wide receiving core. You got the best quarterback room in the country, best pass blocking O-line potentially in the country too. So that's where your strengths are, and your identity should be based on your strength. But I'm not sure if Texas, if they needed to run the football to win a game, I wonder if they could do it. But I don't know if they'll ever have to. But if I'm Brent Venables in this game, I would invite Texas to run the football. Let's see if you can run it. Because we know one thing you do know about tendencies with Sark, he wants to throw the ball early. In every big game, he throws the ball early. 65% early down pass rate. With that being said, that's how you match up if you're Venables. He wants to close with the run. And I think early on, I would almost dare Texas to run the football and see if they can impose their will in that regard. That may be the only flaw that you see with this team, but I mean, I'm being nitpicky. They don't have many guys. I'm saying, maybe the pass defense has not been tested either, though, Quan. I will say that the pass defense has not been tested and will not be tested, by the way, the rest of the season.
I was about to say, and I don't think that with them having 4 or 5 receivers, it's still going to be interesting. If that's tested, and then the backup quarterback youngster who runs more, so it's it hasn't. And I'm with Rod on the run deal because we even talked about it earlier. That game where we closed out Alabama, it was Jay Brooks going boom, boom, boom. Let's get that finish. But he was that funny because it is a weakness. We talked about it's been injury driven. It's become of that because it's just all the injuries. And really, if you take away Blue's last game, I don't think we have quite the same doubt, but it's hard not to when you have a couple of fumbles in a game. And that was a little bit of the asterisk on the trust with you before. And so I think he's fine. I know Choice is all over him, no, like
for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks before too.
Hey Rod, I got a quick question. Last year
before a bye week, that sucks.
Oh, I already know.
Hey Rod, I have a quick question. Last year, OU seemed to really anticipate that early pass game, obviously with the 2 picks. So I have a feeling what you said, Sark might kind of change it up a little bit or not.
Yeah.
No, he could. As I say, you want to break tendency to win big games? I could see him coming out and running a little bit more. Now, if he's going to run it, this will be my advice. Run out of 12 personnel. Jaden Blue averaging 5.8 yards per rush out of 12 personnel. He's averaging 4.7 yards per rush on the season. So run out of 12 personnel, and I would even throw running out of 6 O-line package. We haven't seen it all season long. You haven't seen Malik Agbo at all in that extra O-line package that he saw in 2022 and 2023. And I went back and looked at my notes from last season. You ran an average over 7 yards per carry against Oklahoma, running the 6 O-line package last season. And we haven't seen it at all this season. That's curious. Something's up with that. I wonder that's what Sark is saving it for in this game so he can come out, play a little bit of bully ball, set them up for the deep ball, insulating pass protection with another offensive lineman against a very, sack-oriented defense, one of the top 10 best sack units in the country. So that might be a tendency breaker that he breaks out against him. If you want to run the ball, 12 personnel is the way to do it.
So do you think Texas is still going to lean heavy? I love everything you're saying, agree with it. But the one concern, looking here, of course, we know Baxter is out for the season. But again, Christian Clark listed as out, Gardner listed as out, and Page is listed as questionable. So in a really deep Texas team, that running back room is the one area that we might not be so deep right now. Do you think that plays in to the play calling here, or do you think it's just balls to the wall?
No, that's exactly what I was. One, you know what you have. You got to do what you do. If it's working, you're working. Run that damn thing all day long. And averaging 7 yards, man, that's real. That's next level stuff. So you got to do it and trust that it's going to work itself out. But going back to knowing who's in and who's out, he's going to game plan. That's where the mixture of that insanely impressive receiver room, throw a little receiver screen out there, roll them in, and mix up certain things. There's ways they can break for 50, but you hope for 6. And there's ways he can do that with blue out of the backfield, receiving room screens, even just a short, hey, let's throw a little hitch. Let's just stay ahead of the chains and know what we have, know our limitations. But again, if you can run it downhill all day long, you just got to do it until it doesn't work. And if you have enough receivers to kind of implement certain levels, as much as Chris Omanai was phenomenal for us, Chris maybe had 15, 16 rushes a game because that's when we mix in the bubble screen. I know Texas fans talk a lot about it, but that was a run play for us. That was a run play for us. We averaged 11 yards a pop because we hit some big ones, but we really wanted 4. And it is not sexy, but we were 12-1. So let's relax on that. And so that's really where they are from. Just Sark is all over all that piece of it,
That's a long handoffs, extensions of the run game.
That's exactly right.
Long handoff. Yep, you're right.
We've seen Xavier Worthy score a couple of touchdowns, even for the Chiefs running through. Use your weapons in different ways. So yes, that room is light. You got some positionless footballers, plays, and schemes that will make up for the lightness of that room.
Yep.
I love it. I have a question for you guys. So what position group do you think knowing OU's strengths and weaknesses, what position group of Texas has to just perform their best, cleanest, perfect game, like really step to the plate? And what position group, like this game is on their back? If they perform to their best ability, Texas dominates this game. What position group?
We're taking quarterback out of it.
Let's take quarterback out because we know Quinn needs to not throw 9 interceptions.
I'll go with O-line because the penalties, pre-snap penalties is big. That puts you behind the chains. You don't want to be behind the chains against a defense like Oklahoma where you're in a predictable passing situation. You also want to be able to pass protect against a team that's top 10 in sacks. You want to guard against negative plays. So you're top 10 and top 15 in tackles for loss. And you want to be able to run the football, right? Impose your will. It's a line of scrimmage game. So O-line would be that group for me.
And we saw that formula against Michigan. Again, I'm telling you, Michigan has a good D-line, man. They really do. But our O-line held their own at such a level. They controlled that game. Quinn was back there burping the baby, as Sark say, flipping steaks, you name it. And he was just tossing them, and there's nothing they can do about it. When the O-line, and let's be real, Rod's made a touchdown in that game. I caught some. It's all good, but it starts in the trenches in this game every single time. Let's be real. That's most of the games in general, but we have a massive advantage, and they just need to live up to it. They need to prove us right. And they control the line of scrimmage on that really good D-line who will be emotional until they're not. If you take care of business, you go about a little bit, and they're like, damn, man, Banks is as advertised. I mean, good Lord. You prove them right. They'll notice that they know what's up, and we've been in those positions before. So I'm right there with you. It starts with the line for me.
What about linebackers trying to spy on their freshman running quarterback? Because I have a feeling he's going to take off out of that pocket a lot. He's going to get nervous, and he's going to want to take off. Are we going to spy him with Anthill?
You should. He's got 14 scrambles on the season. He's a really effective scrambler. I believe that 50-yard touchdown they had against Auburn, that was a scramble basically by him. I haven't seen enough design runs, but I bet against Texas they have design runs for him and they encourage him to scramble. His average time to throw is 3.38 seconds. That's one of the highest in the country. That's because he holds onto the ball but he's scrambling. It's not because he's in the pocket, maneuvering in the pocket. No, he abandons the pocket to scramble. So scramble drill is going to be big for the DBs when he gets time, pass rush lanes. Remember, that's how Dylan Gabriel beat you last year. That was it. I mean, that was the tendency breaker. He had his best rushing game of his career, over 100 rushing yards on scrambles and quarterback draws. Trust me, they are in the game plan for this week. Scrambles and quarterback draws, and even some design scrambles. That happens too, where you almost design a quick read for the quarterback. If it ain't there, you have other elements where he knows he's going to have some green grass somewhere where he can go escape to. So that's going to be big. And pass rush lanes, I think Anthony Hill will be a spot, but I would say this. I would probably free up Anthony Hill because you like him on the edge sometimes.
Yeah, I would say Bender.
There you go, boom. Quan already knows. Bender, that's why Bender might be a better spot for you. Yep.
And Bender comes downhill on the next level, but you keep your versatility with Anthony Hill all over the place. That dude is he's too valuable to kind of put him in that space. And Rod said it earlier with our DB room. We can put an extra guy down there per what we've seen to this point, and their receiving core that's not proven. Let's see if y'all can play man. Let's see if y'all can go at it. Let's go. We can outnumber them from that standpoint. And I'd say too, we're a better tackling team. When Sark made the comment about them kind of knowing their why, their football why this matters, why that angle is here, why you wrap up the way you do, you don't give those broken tackles and all that. And we've had a game where it wasn't as buttoned up as others, but even in those games, at some point during that drive, we made a play, we made a tackle, we made a sack that stopped their momentum and stopped that drive. And so this game, in my opinion, especially the ones we lost, going back all the way to CeeDee Lamb, I remember watching one steal shot where we had 4 guys around him, and this fool scored a touchdown. Like, I'm like, how did this happen? And so the fact that we can tackle and we're tackling, our fundamentals on that side of it is so freaking – I mean, we are tackling as good – I haven't seen us tackle like this in a long – certainly not in 2 coaches, you know. And so the way they're developing on that level and just kind of – those little things and those details, I think, could matter big on getting them down. If they get a gain of 4 or whatever, get them down. What you don't want to see, like a Caleb Williams situation where they miss a tackle and he runs for 60. And so, and get that mo, and then it becomes a spiral. So I like that dude's going to make some plays. He's D1, but man, it's just hard to not trust what we've seen for 5 games. And I hope they keep improving like they have, because that's what we've seen more than anything. Is it may happen, you may have a hiccup series, but they continue to evolve and grow and improve, and starting with being in the right position and tackling.
All right. We have a couple of fun, like, little rapid fire questions and want your thoughts on them. So just, if you have a thought on this question, just throw it out. Over under 3.5 total turnovers in the game.
Total for both teams or for Texas?
Both teams. 3.5.
Oh,
this is just numbers I was thinking of.
I'll go with the under on that one, because I'm hoping Texas doesn't turn the ball over and forces a bunch of them. So I'll go with the under, but I'm kind of thinking realistically it's probably gonna be the over, just because they force a lot of the turnovers and Texas is pretty good at it too. So I think you'll get on both sides. So
they're averaging like 2.5 themselves.
Yeah, I'm gonna say over for this reason, because if we start like Sark has in the previous games, and we've lost some of those, but I mean we've started out and guns are blazing, and we forced them to have to throw the ball. What that youngster has not been really had to do to this point is throw the ball consistently. If you get down by a couple of touchdowns, you kind of have to. And you can't play keep away like you're seeing the Vanderbilts, the Kentuckys, and all these teams that are pulling these upsets. So if we Rob talked about it this week, I don't know if they're going to do it, but if they take the ball, they go score, then that changes the game. That changes the game plan. You're playing from behind. And so I'm going to go over, because I just don't trust this guy tossing it. And like I said, they've done a really good job of creating turnovers. Havoc style defense, but so have we, and so we forced him to get out of his element and not be able to just toss around, run around like he's crazy. I think he's going to throw it to Jade a couple of times.
All right. Another question. Who's going to lead the receiving core, including tight ends, receiving core in rush and yards in this game? And who's going to lead the rushing core in rushing yards in this game?
Ooh, that's good. I'll go receiving. I'm going to go Bond, but it could be Bond or Wingo is probably your best options there to lead in receiving, because you don't get a lot of targets. For Texas now, you're only gonna get like 4 or 5 targets, and you got to get a big splash play. She's listening to me talk, so she's excited.
So cute.
You got to get a big splash play on one of them, and Bond and Wingo are more likely to get that splash play on those 3 or 4 targets you're gonna get. Yeah. So those are my 2 to lead the team in receiving.
Man, I like that. I'm gonna go Bolden. Because when we get in the red zone, he's that dude. And Quinn coming back from injury, Bolden kind of has those under routes that Bond is going to be they're going to be scared. Rob, you know this. Do not get beat over the top. Bond speeds, blow that thing off the top. And Bowden in the mid-range world of just, shaking dudes out of a freaking phone booth, he's really good in that space.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go him with I'm not – you talking yards or touchdowns?
Yards.
Yeah, okay. Then I gotta roll. I gotta roll with Bob. I would say touchdowns. I think Bowden may have 2, but I think we're gonna have multiple guys with it. Yards.
Gunner Helm's gonna have a big day.
Gunners.
Yes, Gunner Helm.
Hey, my man is ball. See, I would put him in the touchdown category too, but these guys, they can have 70 yards in one play. And so that's Bond and Wingo, and Wingo might catch a reverse and go for 60. So I like Rod's picks, but if we're talking touchdown, we're going to throw Bowden and Gunner Helm in the mix.
I like
All right. I was watching, I don't forgot what show it was, but they were talking about Stutzman when teams attack him directly right over the middle. 10 for 10 receptions for 100 yards. Can you imagine if Gunner Helm goes right at Stutzman this game? Like just man on man, let's go. I would like to see some of that.
Because he's sneaky too. I mean, ultimately it's you go up there and the look test, old boy from Bama actually is the look test, and he's made his, he get his 3 or 4 catches, but Helm is like, hey, I'm coming at you. And then boom, I make a play and I just mossed you and I caught a 27-yarder. And so, and then schematically, they forget him because of that receiver room. I don't know how they do, because he showed him every week he's a baller, but that receiver room, you blow it over the top. You got the safety, their mama, their cousin, and everybody else trying to get them from scoring, and Helm just rolls around there in a little crossing route, and boom, you hit them. And so Sark is dang good at scheming those under guys because of the speed that we have at receiver.
All right, I have another question. Who's like the breakout player? Not necessarily the star stats or the one that just not the most yards or most receptions, but who on offense or defense just really breaks out and makes a name for themselves in this game? Even if it's one play, the legends are made in this game. Who's going to really break out and be? Chuck, you look like you have an answer. Who's the legend in this game?
I don't know where Niblack's been, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if he came out and they threw the ball to him a few times.
Man, you know what? Well, and if anything, I would say Cook from that standpoint, because he can redeem himself after that drop touchdown. But I'm sorry, I wouldn't say breakout because we know this dude is on the map. I got to go with Collins, man. I mean, that dude is – I'm sorry, but he's proven it every week. And the reason I'm going to say breakout is because he hasn't played in this game yet. And guess what? Where he come from? Down the street.
Yep.
He's going to have everybody at this game, and he's going to want to show out. And it's hard. No one's been able to block him yet. And so I think if he has a 3-sack day or something like that, or tackle for loss, he can become a legend real quick in this game, or a cause fumble, you name it. I think those things matter. We've seen B-Rob do it on the Rob Wright, touchdown. Those things matter so big. And I think this dude, I think they're going to be I think he's going to cause more false starts than they realize, because he's that good off the edge.
Yeah. And he kind of asking who makes the most iconic play out of the group, and that Stony Park play, right? I don't even know what Stony Park's stat line was. I don't think anybody cares. Nobody asked it because you just know it's an iconic play. That's a great question. I don't know, for some reason I'm thinking a Matthew Golden makes that kind of play. I don't know why Golden stood out to me. Quinn likes Matthew Golden. He looks to him in the red zone a lot. He's a mature player. I don't know why Matthew Golden stands out to me as that guy. And he kickoff return. Quan, we've been talking about the kick returns. He's one of the best kickoff returns in the country, and we have not seen that yet. So I'm thinking he's my guy. I'm going with him.
I would love to see Golden in the golden hat, right? I mean, it's just give me the
well done.
That's too easy.
Next, do you have a player you think is going to break out, become a legend in this game?
I love it.
Megan, do you have one?
Megan.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh, as far as legend, man, I don't know. I think Simmons is going to make a name too. He's coming up, and I think he's going to show us a little shimmy, little shake, little bring it and bring the wood. So yeah, I'm excited to see him play out here.
6
I think
sacks.
I'm going, even though he's kind of growing on the map already, especially after Michigan, I'm going Gunnar Helm. I think this is his breakout game. The opportunity is there to hear him speak this week. I feel like he has all the confidence, all the preparation. I think there's an opportunity for him right over the middle this week. And
but didn't Gunnar Helm have a good? He had a good game last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He had that big, it was like a 4th down fake or something, or a 3rd down, something right over the middle. He has, I think, showing what he did at Michigan. I think this is his next level. He's definitely in contention for best tight end in the country this year. And I would love for this to be a great stage for him this Saturday. We're just a few hours away. All right, we're going to make some predictions. Do y'all have y'all given your score predictions? Or let's do bold prediction first and then score prediction. One crazy, wacky, wild thing that's going to happen in this game.
Oh, wacky, wild. That is good.
Just something that's just a bold prediction. In this game, this crazy thing's going to happen because this is a crazy game.
It is a crazy game.
Megan, Chuck, if y'all have one, jump on in.
I think a wacky, wild thing that's going to happen is you're going to see, and you typically do, so I don't know if it's as wacky, but I think you're going to see like a fake punt or something. You know, if something happens, I think they've had a couple of weeks to prepare for it. If they're near midfield and they're a little bit desperate, I think you could see some just crazy fake punt or something, try to make a play. I'm not going to say if it's going to work or not, but I do think it's going to happen, which is a dangerous thing. But if it works out, it's huge for that big Mo that we talk a lot about. So I think we're going to see a fake punt from OU side, because I feel like if we take business, we'll have the lead, and they're not going to leave a fraction of anything on that field.
That is good. I do. I think you're going to get some trickery of some kind. Sark hasn't broken out of trick plays so far this season. He likes them. He talks about how he likes trick plays and likes to practice them, and it breaks up the monotony of practice and stuff like that. And his go-to trick play back in the day was a double pass. He loved X-Man, that damn double pass. He would run it to the point where we'd be like, sorry, it's so predictable now, you're going to run the double pass.
I love the slight eye roll you gave me that, Ron.
Yeah, the quarterback would be like under center. Be like, quarterback's never under center. What is he doing? And he got to run the double pass. But I think a double pass or a reverse pass or something. He's been running a lot of reverses. He got like 4 more in the season. I wonder maybe we get a reverse pass or something like that in the game. So yeah,
I like that. I'm not real sure who can throw at the receiver room.
I don't know.
And I'm gonna be honest, Worthy was just okay at it. He didn't throw that great.
The problem was his first one was beautiful.
The first one was great, and it was just, I mean, after that, I'm like, quit running this. Hey, I felt like old boy on Harlem Nights. Quit shooting it. Quit shooting that.
Did you ever throw it, Quan?
Anymore, huh?
Did you ever throw a ball, Quan? Did you throw it?
Oh, I was 3 for 4, baby.
Oh,
hey, on the fourth, threw it to Shipley and a PI. So really it was production 4 for 4, but it was that's why I'm critical about him. I'm like, that throw wasn't even that. No, I'm kidding. By the way, I misspoke earlier too. I said Alfred Collins because he's in my brain and I want him to ball, but I meant the same guy you were talking about from Duncan.
Colin Simmons.
The freshman, Colin Simmons.
Yeah. Any bold predictions, Chuck or Megan?
I think we're going to see a big man tutty for Texas. I'm big man tutties.
That's a good one.
I think that's going to come out. We saw that a little bit.
Andre Sweat action.
Yeah, we saw that last year. I think we're going to see it this year again. I think Texas does well, and I agree. Maybe that falls under the category of trick play, but I think we see.
Are you talking about on offense or them getting a thick 6 with a defense?
I reserve the right to say both. I like
that.
I'm thinking on offense, but I'm not mad about a thick 6 either.
Yeah,
that would be sweet. From a score standpoint. Oh, are you knocking yours out, Rocky?
I was going to let Chuck go. Did Chuck, do you have any bold predictions?
No, I think we're going to have a return. I think you're right. I think we're going to return something, a punt or a kickoff. I think we're going to return something. I don't think we're going to block one again this year like we did last year for a touchdown, which was awesome. But I think we're going to get a return in the return game.
Ooh, like that. Strip sacks for 6. I like that. That's not thick enough for a thick 6. That ain't thick enough. So
yeah, no.
We need a thick on this end.
He looking a little too athletic over there. He don't have that meat on the bones yet. But we'll take it.
All right. I have a bold prediction. Quinn stats. I'm gonna say he throws for 330.
Oh, it's good. I like that.
That'd be
That's
great.
good.
How many
Okay.
touchdowns?
4 passing.
Like,
That's what I was gonna say. I remember 4 sounds about right.
Two
That's
touchdowns.
that's my bold prediction. 330 yards passing, 4 touchdowns.
all right.
That
I
would be
love
nice.
it. I love
That
it.
would be
All right.
nice.
So as we get in, we're about to do our picks real quick. I'm going to ask this, and this might spoil the picks a little bit. Does Texas trail in this game?
Oh, I'm gonna say no. They haven't trailed in a game all year. I'm gonna say no. I don't see how Oklahoma moves the football, really, in my opinion. If they trail, Texas screwed up. They turnover, punt
Yeah.
return, kickoff return, trick play, something bad happened.
That's a really good question.
That is a good question, though.
I'm with Rob B. I don't think they do because, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I trust the hell out of our defense right now because they have no reason not to. And then Oklahoma's offense has been sus. Two, if we take the ball, I do think our offense is going to go down and get points. And again, I trust our defense. So I think Oklahoma's going to have a tough go at it. I think we can stop the run. So even if they try to load up the box and keep the ball for 40 minutes, I think we can get off the field. So I don't think we do.
I like it. I like it.
Even
All
with the trick plays, they're going to try.
Speaking of trusting the defense,
sure.
Rod, you would be proud of me. I looked at some stats.
Nice.
And I dove deep in a few little numbers. You would be so proud of me. So I'm thinking that Texas giving up, 7 points a game. They average 121 passing yards a game, giving up 106 rushing yards a game. The average score being 45-7. So then the people are like, Texas hasn't played anybody. All the teams are terrible. Yeah, they're bad. They're 13-13 overall record. The teams we've played outside of Texas, not counting the loss to Texas. So then I went and looked at Colorado State averages 18.7 points a game. They scored 0 on Texas. Michigan averages 25.8, scored 12 against Texas. UTSA averages almost 26, 7 against Texas. ULM averages 24, 3 against Texas. Anyway, it goes on. So the average teams score total, all the points they score against other teams, 26.5. Texas holds them to 20 points below their average, holds them to 70 yards passing below their average, and holds them to 65 yards rushing below their average, all the teams combined that we've played.
Nice.
So even though we haven't played amazing teams, Texas is controlling the yards and stuff, not so much. 20 points per game below every team's average. That's pretty good. And when Oklahoma doesn't even average 20, that means they're going to score -5.
So if we really putting this in the
-5.
equation, Oklahoma's going to score 4 points this game.
I don't even know how they get to 1 point based on this math.
I'm with you. I don't know, but that is impressive, though. That is really
very
impressive. I think ultimately, if you start just looking at, yes, Texas, they have not been tested yet totally as a defense, but they have essentially made an A+ on the test so far. Like, so they have the midterm. The midterm is coming up. That will be Georgia.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. So anyway, go ahead, Megan.
No, I was just gonna say, I love
Share that
that.
'cause I work putting those numbers together.
We got Rod Babers Jr. over here with Rocky.
Yeah, that was
I was like, gotta
impressive.
be proud of my
Yeah, I'm
numbers.
proud. I'm proud.
That was
I'm proud.
impressive.
All right. Are we ready to do our predictions for the game? We'll wrap up.
Let's
This
do
has been amazing. Lots of people watching. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Fire the cannon. I'm Rocky. You know Rod Babers. Y'all know legends, Longhorn lifetime legends, Rod Babers and Quan Cosby. Our friend Chuck, he's with Diamond S Rocking Ranch. You can see, scroll up and you'll see how to contact him if you want to visit the Longhorns and the land out there. And of course, Megan, Fancy Boots, Texas Fancy Boots. All
Hey,
right, let's go.
Don't forget Nadia and Rob. What's your little one's name?
Oh, Monroe. Oh.
Monroe. Don't forget Nadia and Monroe. We give
Nadia
them a
Monroe,
shout
they
out.
made a visit. This is Monroe's premier exposure to
Give
the
it
world.
one more time, Monroe. Tell us what OU does. We won't say the word though.
He's like, I'm done
She's
with
too
y'all.
cute.
She was in on it earlier.
That's
How
awesome.
cute.
Ah,
There
there
she
she is. Boom. That's all we needed. We know what that means. We won't mess her language barrier up. We won't mess the bad words anymore, but we know what that means.
You know what that means.
Yeah. All right. So who's ready to give their predictions, their score
I'm down.
predictions?
I'm, you know what? And I think the over is like 50 something. I'm cool with that because I do feel like there's going to become a time where Venables like just run it to get out of here. Because this could get ugly, and the uglier it gets, the more the Sooners don't like them. So I'm gonna go 38-16. That's going to be my prediction.
That's almost exactly mine.
40.
Rocky's like, why did I go first?
The Mississippi State range.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
But then I took 20 points off their average and I get to -5. So I'm on the record. I'm on the record as I'm going to say Texas has never scored 50 in this game. And Rod, didn't you say this is the first time ever OU is starting a freshman quarterback in this game?
A true freshman, yeah.
Yeah, true freshman. So, okay, putting all that together, I'm going to say 51, -5.
Boy,
it's the math. The math.
listen.
The math is mathing.
The math.
Boy, hey, the Cotton Bowl will appreciate that because the cocktails I'm going to have if we whooping them like that.
Man.
No, I'm just, yeah.
I like it.
Well, who cares? My score's not going to hit anyway. 51, -5. Go ahead.
I like it.
Yeah. Quan's pretty close. I'm at 30, like 35 to 13, somewhere around there.
Like it.
That's
The
where
spread
I am.
is 14.5 still, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 35-13 right now.
I like it. Yeah. And I think I'm a little closer to Chuck's prediction. I'm going Texas wins big. I think it's Texas 45. I think OU hits 10. So I think that it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. It seems like Texas has been playing loose and having a fun time playing football again.
Yeah.
Because they understand the why, they understand the fundamentals, but I'm here for a big Cotton Bowl win. I'm here for partying at the State Fair after.
Indeed.
Don't be nice. Don't be nice.
Chuck, do you have a prediction?
42-10 with 6 sacks. That's good. That's good.
Ooh, they got him against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be desperate. They're going to be throwing at the end of the game. It's probably
Well,
that's
and
not-
if he's holding the ball for 3+ seconds, then
Right.
that's very
No,
doable.
that was the key to Mississippi State. To remember, they got 6 sacks, but what, 4 or 5 of them came in the second half.
Yeah.
That's the
That's when
key.
you
Once
expect
you
the
get up,
second half-
there ain't no
second
sacks
half
coming
field.
bunches. Yeah.
Then that'll
All
add.
right. Uh-oh, what did I do? Okay, let's all put our horns up for a cute
Go,
picture.
baby.
Thank you.
Oh, you like a
I love
screenshot
it, guys.
thing? Was that like a screenshot?
screenshotting it.
Oh, nice. Okay. I was like,
5-25.
I'm gonna put our score predictions by our name because we own it now. Doesn't
absolutely.
matter. Doesn't matter. Mine's gonna hit. Watch. Mine's gonna hit.
5-25 and OU still sucks.
Oh, you
Damn right.
too.
It always will.
Yes,
Always
indeed.
will.
Hey, man, appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all
We're
having us
gonna wrap
on.
up. Thank you so much. We know you. Thank
you.
you for showing your beautiful baby Monroe. Quan, I know
Yes.
you're busy with family and work. Thank you guys. And Rod, you do 98 shows a day. You're amazing. I don't know how you go and go. Y'all are amazing for joining us. And it's OU Hate Week and all
Yes.
the things.
We love it. Yeah. Thank you guys. We totally appreciate you. So again, please don't forget, y'all, we are Fire the Cannon. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are Fire the Cannon podcast on Instagram and on X or Twitter, as it shall ever be known. We are Fire the Cannon and the number 1 after it. As always, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon.
Say who they are.
Yeah. And we've
Welcome.
also got special guests.
All right.
And you're Quan.
Oh, I'm Quan. What's up? My bad.
And we're Fire the Cannon.
You screwed it up.
Fire the Cannon, baby.